Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin, Buchanan.
Make a mistake. We're not going anywhere. This is going to be a great program, and we're building it into a great program.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I stand by what we do and how we do it.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
The audience won't care about this, but somebody in the studio, I don't know if it's Luke, Olin, Bronny probably, somebody changed the chair. So I got this downward sloping chair at the moment. The one that it feels like you're like going down a hill, but I'm not. I'm on a flat surface. This chair sucks absolute bad tasting coffee. But that's why I start my morning with a TexAgs coffee. That is fantastic. Beat the hell out of the morning by going to texags.com/coffee. There's your commercial. It's actually really good. I know you're not a coffee guy.
I'm not. My wife is, and she has previously. One time I was down in El Salvador, right, for muster, and talked with Guayo Palomo, super nice guy who's going to
love her.
Who's growing this coffee, and he sent her. I talked about how much she likes coffee, so he sent her, a bag of his coffee, and she says it's awesome.
It is awesome,
and she is a coffee connoisseur.
It is awesome, and that's where we're getting our coffee from. So if you're interested in it, go to texags.com/coffee. Beat the hell out of morning. By the way, we're going to give one out. So if you text in to the text line 979-693-1150, TexAgs Coffee, the 12th texter on the list. We're choosing number 12 today. We'll get a free bag of coffee. As for getting it to you, if you don't live in the area, we'll try to figure it out. We'll try to work with you. So just text in, and Luke will take a look at that. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I didn't watch the game last night because I was cooking dinner, and then I turned it on, and they were already my Astros were losing. And congratulations to the Rangers fan. I don't think I'm one of those mean Astros fans. Like props. I grew up kind of liking the Rangers because of Palmeiro, Canseco. Those are my guys. I watched a lot of Rangers games growing up. I would remember, people thought I was weird being a Houstonian going to Arlington to watch at the old ballpark at Arlington to go watch games, but it was because Cubans stick together, and I went to go watch my guys play. They both ended up being jokes in baseball. That being said, congratulations.
Palmeiro's a joke in baseball? Yeah,
remember? I did not do steroids.
That's so what? Again, everybody, it seems like, was doing them. So what?
I know, but it seemed like right after he said that is when he got caught. Like, it was not too far after. But I met him as a kid. Great guy. I told him he was my cousin. He's not. He was very nice to me.
He's all about performance-enhancing drugs, right? Wasn't he a spokesperson for Viagra?
I think he was, yeah.
If that's not a performance-enhancing drug, I don't know what it is.
Sorry, I'm not familiar.
I am.
I hear he gets headaches.
I wouldn't know that.
Anyway, so congrats. As an Astros fan, very proud of the last 7 years, and they're not done. Whoever the new manager is, they're not.
Wait, they're already getting a new manager?
It looks like Dusty's going to retire. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I think Aggies Today said, we made him retire. Dude is a World Series champion, Aggies Today, just so you know. Good kid, but just saying. He was laughing that Dusty retired. That was, I think, in the works for a while. But my point is, I think the Astros will be back. And congratulations to the freaking Rangers, who a team that people didn't believe.
I still don't.
Somebody texted the show last night because I woke up this morning about you. They didn't say you. They said they sent it to Louis. It was sent it at 10:45 at night, and they're like, "Can you get your employees?" He's definitely not Louis' employee. But it was about you. It's not loading up just yet.
I admit it. I've doubted them the whole way, and all this tells me as a lifelong Rangers fan, long suffering and so many times heartbroken that okay, this is great. Now they'll lose the World Series.
But
I hope they don't.
RJ sends in time for your employees to go eat crow.
Okay.
I got so sick of listening to how bad the Rangers were and how bad they were going to choke. I think it's a shot at you.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I said that they would choke.
Yeah, and they didn't.
And they did, and then they, I guess they got the Heimlich maneuver.
Well, congrats, great story.
I'm glad they won.
It's awesome. I don't care what happens in the World Series. You know me, I'm out.
I must have made a good line without even realizing it because Luke is reacting to it.
Heimlich maneuver.
Oh, Jonah! They got the Jonah Heimlich maneuver.
Ah, look at that. Did your voice crack when you said that, Luke?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think I heard a crackage. Anyway, props to them. Obi, let's get into some thoughts this morning. So, the Ole Miss game, which is next week, is an 11 a.m. game.
Yes.
A lot of 11 a.m. games this year for the Aggies.
It's the home of the 12th man and the 11 o'clock game.
So 3 of their last 5 games are at 11, potentially more, but at least 3.
I mean, I would think that Mississippi State game is going to be a great candidate for 11 a.m.
Right. 5 in total this season, and you've had 3 2:30 games.
And 0-3 in them.
A 3 o'clock game that didn't really count. And then there was a 6 o'clock game?
Yeah, the first one.
First game of the year. So there you go.
You got to win games to get prime time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, they didn't. They didn't win the big game. So then you get the 11 o'clock games. You get put in what I call the mowing zone.
The mowing zone, because that's when people are cutting their yards, right? Is that why you call it that?
Beth Mowens.
Oh. That's her game?
I don't know if she even calls games anymore, but I just never thought she was very good, and that's why she was on the 11 o'clock.
Well, here's the thing. They got to win. But from a selfish point of view, I enjoy the 11 a.m.
Well, I do too.
Right? It's for a work perspective. Not that anybody – I want you guys to have a great experience at Kyle Field, right? Whatever that is. For us, we get to do our work and get home, right?
And still have some semblance of a Saturday night.
When it's a later game, I feel like you're working all day because you're starting your morning prepping for the game. You're watching, and by the way, everybody's watching games, but I think we're keeping up with it with a different eye, right? Like,
yeah.
But it's whatever time they play, go win. I don't care if it's at 9 a.m.
Well, that's true. And you know what? So the Ole Miss game, right? That's 11 a.m. Well, I've always felt like that's in the best interest of your visiting team to play 11 a.m. They don't want to be. You can talk to players. They always say they hate just sitting around the hotel waiting to go to the stadium. Hey, just get up, have your breakfast, go to the stadium, get ready, and go play. That's to the benefit of the visiting team.
Yeah. When you start, now that we've really gotten into South Carolina prep, man, I don't see a scenario other than because things don't go the way I want it to go. I don't see a scenario where this team doesn't get after Spencer Rattler 7, 8, 9, 10 times.
Well, I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna pressure him without a doubt, and I think they're gonna sack him. I mean, everybody does. It seems like, with the exception of
he's been sacked 30 times this year.
Was it Walford or Mercer? Whoever's their second, the FCS opponent. But everybody else has gotten to him pretty well. I think Georgia only got to him maybe 3 times. Florida maybe twice. But yeah, I mean, you have a strong pass rush. They have a weak pass protection. But that said, aren't they like in the top 20 in passing offense?
Yeah.
So you better get him.
And A&M does struggle a little bit with that.
They do.
So here's the numbers. Mizzou got to him 6 times, Florida twice, 6 times by Tennessee, 4 times by Mississippi State, 3 times by Georgia, only 3 times by Georgia. Well, they were playing catch-up. But then to start the season, 9 times. To North Carolina.
And you know how many sacks North Carolina has on the year?
I'm going to say 16.
18.
Okay, that was close.
So half of them
in that one game.
In that one game.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully A&M does live in the backfield that entire game. Look, Spencer Rattler, to me, he's an interesting quarterback in the fact that I know he's got game. I also don't believe in him either. It's like if he gets hot, he'll beat you for sure. You just got to make sure he doesn't get hot, and that might mean living in the backfield.
I think he's a talented guy, and I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's as good as he is hyped to be.
Yeah.
He came in as a 5-star guy at Oklahoma, and look, he's this and this and this. And he had one really good year at Oklahoma, but he should in the old Big 12 be good at Oklahoma. And I'm not saying he's not bad. I'm not saying he's bad. He's a good quarterback. I just don't think he's that guy that at one time people say, oh, he'll be the first player taken in the NFL draft. I'm like, well, I don't think so.
No, but he can beat you.
Oh, yeah, he'll play in the NFL. He'll be on a roster.
Hey, I was going to ask you this, and it's not an A&M topic, but I think you and I are somewhat aligned. I forget who it was. I think it was one of the Ocho brothers tweeted out that Caleb Williams should sit out the rest of the year. I think if I'm getting the quote wrong, but he should sit out the rest of the season. And I think that's such
Manuel's kind of a strange guy. I'll just leave it at that.
I think that is such a crock of caca.
Well, you know what? If he sat out, now I get this. NFL guys aren't always going to think the way I do. In fact, they never do. That, to me, if he sat out, would be a really big red flag.
Absolutely.
Do I want this kind of guy on my team? By the way, it's interesting you brought up Caleb Williams because I was doing some research on him because I think you might have seen the story where he and his dad are saying whoever drafts him needs to give him an ownership stake in the team. I mean, trying that. So I looked it up, and I don't have these numbers right in front of me. They're in my bag here, but I looked up his top 10 passing performances against Power 5 opponents.
Yep.
And I believe the best ranked defense that he played against was in 2000, pass defense, I should say, was in 2022 last year. Utah was 60th, and he played them twice. I think they lost them both.
They did. Yeah.
But, he's had these huge games against Colorado and Arizona and, Arizona State, these teams that are not very good in pass defense. And then you look at them when they play some teams that's pretty good, like Notre Dame, 3 interceptions.
Yep.
He may be a guy that's good and probably be the first player taken in the draft, but when you put it under the microscope, he might be a little bit overrated.
Yeah, look, guy is obviously very talented.
And I'm not giving him a stake in ownership of
Heck
team.
no, I'm not giving anybody a stake in ownership. Here's the way I look at the whole thing. If a player is willing mid-season to sit out because of his NFL future, what kind of teammate is he?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, what does he say to the rest of the guys that want to go to a big bowl game and want to play like, hey, this is my freshman year. I'm playing a little bit. I want to go places. We may not win the national championship, but if that's the only reason you're playing, if you're not playing for the love of the game, if you're not playing for your teammates and your brothers in the locker room, get the out.
Yeah, it makes me think what kind of teammate was Emmanuel Acho?
Right. And I understand the business. Like, if you're an advisor from business sense where you're looking at things only through dollars and cents, I understand it. But life is not just about that. Life is about experiences. It's about cherishing the moment. And when it's gone, it's gone. And this college experience, when you're one of the best quarterbacks in college football, enjoy it, man. Enjoy the experience. Enjoy your brothers in that locker room. You already left Oklahoma for USC. Now you're going to leave those guys high and dry as well?
You know what I think about? I think about Myles Garrett playing in a meaningless bowl game. And he said, because this is my team. I think about Christian Kirk playing in a meaningless bowl game and playing great. Look what those guys are doing now.
Yeah.
And to play because you're a competitor, because you feel like you owe it to your team and your coach and your teammates and all those things, that says something to me that, hey, if you're going to quit on your team now, are you going to quit on your team in the NFL?
I wish NIL was tied to maybe not performance per se, but games played. All right, this is your NIL deal, but if you decide to leave early, non-injury situation,
it's over. I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, it better be.
I'm sure it will be. Yeah.
Hey, if you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us. We'll talk to you, most of you, 979-693-1150. Let's go behind the glass and talk to a very moody Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Moody. What are you talking about?
I assume because your team lost.
Ask OB. I'm pretty. I feel like I'm pretty level-headed about the whole thing.
He's taking it well.
All right.
He's being very mature.
Well, I mean, you know what? It is easier to be mature about something when you're used to winning.
Maybe not.
If had the Rangers lost, and they've been waiting for a while, like the Astros have enjoyed a golden.
See, I think it's the other way. I think when you win a lot, you get spoiled, and you
that's probably part of it.
Expect,
Yeah, I'm thinking about a Real Madrid
because
you're probably
don't handle it well because you're so used to it.
But I also think there's because I heard Nick talking about this.
It's like
earlier.
Alabama. Every time they lose, they start talking about fire this guy, fire that guy.
But then when you get a couple years removed, you're like the Patriots fans right now. Man, those were the golden years. Those good years are awesome. Even when we weren't winning, we're going to the AFC Championship. Those years were awesome.
The Astros fans, and look, I'm definitely outside looking in, but they're talking about how bad a manager Dusty Baker is. And we were talking. I said, "How long has he been the manager there?" And he said, "Like, is it 4 years?"
He started
3 years?
in 2020. Was his first
4
year.
years. So I don't know what they did in 2020.
They went to the ALCS
they
Game
lost
7.
in the ALCS, yeah.
In a similar situation, by the way, they were down 3-0 and they came back.
In 4 years as manager, they've won a World Series.
Mm-hmm.
They've been to a World Series, and they lost in Game 7 of the AL Championship Series twice.
Yeah,
man, that guy sucks.
I think it's the in-game stuff and the lineups that upset people, right? Like I see it on my feed all the time. Oh my God, Maldi's still in there.
It just feels like he's managed games, especially last night, with no sense of urgency. Like JP France was out there to get shelled in Game 7 when anyways, but. Yeah.
But today should be more about the Rangers,
Absolutely,
not about the Astros.
All credit to them. They're obviously the better team.
Bruce Bochy, I think, owns Dusty Baker in the playoffs, too.
Yeah.
So congratulations to the Rangers. All you fans listening in the Metroplex. I'm sure Gabe was, streaking
Rusty
the neighborhood.
Burson. Oh, God, I hope not.
He was. He was, for sure, though, he was wearing that life preserver thing he wears. The no sleeves thing. Streaking.
Well, if he was, nobody noticed. I don't know if you ever seen Gabe without a shirt. He's a great woolly, hairy beast.
Okay,
we've got a Bigfoot sighting. I'm kidding, Gabe. I know you're listening.
Congratulations to all you Ranger fans. Anything else, Nick?
Yeah, I would like to point out just how comically bad me and Luke were on our bank on it. I know we normally don't revisit what we say, but
I do.
When I'm
right.
Okay, well, me and Luke were the opposite of right. So we each did 3. I'll be quick here. We only got 1 right, and 1 is kind of still outstanding, so we'll see. One of mine was Astros-Rangers going to Game 7, right? Got that right. Auburn beating Ole Miss. I was close, but didn't happen. And this one I was way off. Michael Penix throws for 500 yards against Arizona State. He had his worst passing performance of the year, so I'm off there. Now this is where it gets brutal with Luke. Penn State beats Ohio State. No.
I got that one wrong, too.
His outstanding one was Pac-12 gets left out of the playoffs, but I just don't think that's the case. Big 12's worse than the Pac-12, so we'll see with that one. Here's bad. This is brutal. He said North Carolina will finish the season undefeated and play in the ACC championship, and they just lost to a Virginia team who started playing football in the 1800s and had never beaten a top 10 opponent on the road.
I may have had. I don't know the exact numbers yet because I don't follow it that closely, but I think that I was 0 on my picks last week.
Really?
I don't think I got any. Well, and then we do the other one where there's 8. I think I went 0 for 8.
Huh.
I think and you know what? Before we started this, I always told everybody, I said, if you want to get rich, take my picks and bet the exact opposite. So for all you who followed that advice, you're welcome.
You are welcome. I guess we're way late to go to the.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Angry Elephant News and Social Center. So we'll hold that and we'll come back and talk to Luke there. So I think Rangers and Astros fans could break bread at Fargo's and be on the same page. Yes, Rangers, you own us right now, and it's all because of some media member's tweet making fun of your celebration. That's why the Astros lost. But that being said, if you go to Fargo's, right?
Yeah,
you'd be happy.
Yeah, you can, especially today. Today's a Tuesday. So you could get up early, call in your reservation for rib tips. I don't think you can be angry at anybody if you're sharing rib tips together.
Instead of a champagne celebration, how about a Fargo sauce celebration in that clubhouse? That's would be to me the way to really celebrate.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I could see dumping rip tips all over everybody.
Just throwing black eyes everywhere.
But you know, you can build bridges with rib tips. You know, you can build a bridge that spans the 244 miles of Highway 45 from Dallas to Houston. Everybody come together.
Everybody come together. Eat at Fargo's. By the way, I don't know if you knew this. We're one of the top 50 barbecue joints in the world.
Well, because it's one of the top 50 in Texas.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. I forgot all about that. It's the best barbecue in town. That's their trademark because it
is true.
Okay, just making sure you had that part. Go check them out. It's Fargo, 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan. And we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. We haven't checked in at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Luke Evangelist is in the house. He was made fun of a moment ago by Nick. I apologize about that. I had your back on that one.
Thank you. I didn't hear it, but... Oh,
Oh, you're talking about
that you were terrible.
Yeah.
With your
Well, let
picks.
me just say something. It's not as easy as it looks, right? You do all this prep, you have opinions about teams, and you believe in a team, and then all of a sudden they lose to probably the worst Power 5 team in the country. Thank you, North Carolina.
I understand.
We've been there.
Yeah. So not a great start. Probably going 0 for 3, but I'll rebound.
I don't know if you'll get another chance. There's no rebound.
Yeah, maybe never I'll ever get back to hosting. Anyways, I have a couple stats for y'all. OB mentioned home of the 12th man and of the 11 a.m. kickoff. Jimbo Fisher is 15-2 in 11 a.m. kickoffs, 9-1 at home, 3-0 at neutral sites, and 3-1 on the road. And
Let me interject. Mm-hmm. Do you have those games in front of you? Because I wonder how many games are against like legit opponents.
Well, you're playing 11 a.m. That means you're playing poor opponents.
I can tell you they're 2-0 against Power 5 teams.
That's what
year.
I was looking for. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Some more encouragement. Jimbo is 4-0 at home after a bye at A&M. And yeah, that's everything I've got for you. Jimbo's 5-3 after a bye overall at A&M. So thank goodness this one is at home.
Most recent bye last year, excuse me. Who did they play?
South Carolina.
How did those first 5 minutes go of that game?
We're down 17-0.
Oh, okay.
But it was at South Carolina.
It's different.
It was.
And it was a good environment.
Oh, yeah, South Carolina. I'll give South Carolina fans a lot of credit. Even when South Carolina was winning like 2 games a year before Steve Spurrier and before Lou Holtz, great fan support there.
Yeah. Okay.
They just don't give up.
They don't give up. I know you had a text or two for us.
Yep. Chad in Odessa asked, do you think we see any changes to the offensive line this week versus South Carolina?
I think not. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if you do.
Yeah, it's not an answer, but yes, that's exactly where I'm at with it. I think we may see some in-game manipulation, and we've seen that this year already. I do think the offense will be a little different. I think they're going to be more in Max's ear about, we got to get rid of the ball fast, bro. We got to.
I'm sure. Is Bobby Petrino calling the plays for his offense, or is he calling the plays in Jimbo's offense?
I'm going to say it's the merger. It's his
Is
offense with what Jimbo wants for his program to have.
Yeah, because I just get the feeling that it's the same offense, just a different guy calling the plays, which is like saying, okay, I'm going to hire a chef, the Wolfgang Puck. I'm going to bring him in, but Wolfgang, you have to follow this recipe follow it step by step,
But before SEC play, it did feel different.
It did. And then somewhere in there, I think they reverted. I mean, this is just a theory. But I do think that they should look really hard at some of the guys that, especially in the offensive line, that may not be getting it done.
Yeah.
Or, look, if you can't get a yard,
then what are we
there
doing
are things
here?
to look. And you know what's one of the biggest head scratchers for me this year is I really believe that the offensive line got better last year when Cam Dewberry got inserted to the starting lineup.
So more Cam Dewberry sounds like a good idea.
And yet he hadn't played at all this year, or I shouldn't say he hadn't started, and they're not very good.
I bet you Luke can look up those numbers because I know they keep him on how many plays a game he's playing at some point during the show, during the go hour. We can kind of look that up. Let's do, while he searches for that, let's do
I can tell you right now.
Oh,
yeah.
right now. Look at that.
Yep, against Auburn, he played 4 snaps. Arkansas, he played 17 snaps, which I believe was his high. Alabama, 14 snaps. And Tennessee, 10 snaps.
Yeah, and look, they're seeing things in practice that I don't see. I'm just going by what I saw last year and what I'm seeing this year.
Yeah.
And it just seems like they're not playing well in the offensive line. If you start to juggle things, I wonder if you start with Dewberry as part of the juggle.
Hey, before we do the Apex Performers of the Week, I actually want to ask this question from Chase in Houston. Luke, you want to take it for us there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center?
Oh, yeah, I can take it. I got it.
Okay.
Okay, he says, as a journalist, what are your thoughts on the guy that's a UT law grad being a replay official of their game against Houston and that game coming down to a questionable
I
review.
think, look, right there, I'll say this, and this has nothing to do with Texas. Nobody that goes to a university should ever be an official at a game involving that university, should ever be a replay official. You can't, even if they're above reproach, you can't do anything that even gives the suggestion of impropriety. And that goes to the SEC because there's Alabama officials all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that I know a guy who is a referee in big-time college football that has said to me if he were to work in the SEC, because he doesn't, he could not ref A&M games. He's an Aggie.
And he shouldn't.
Yeah. So I wish that was the rule for everybody involved, right? Like that's.
I mean, I didn't know that was the case in that game. I'm really surprised that's even that's allowed.
Let's do the Apex Performance of the Week presented by Apex Health. Feel like you're losing your edge? It could be low testosterone. Increase your energy, sharpen your focus, and boost your performance with a custom treatment plan from Apex Health. Learn more at apexhealthclinic.com. The Apex Health Clinic is owned and operated by a veteran, and they serve the Brazos Valley. All right, OB, do you have a team or a person or anybody that you want to give the Apex
Well, the
Performance of
Rangers didn't, I got to go with them because the Aggies didn't play last year. Yeah. First of all, the Rangers, but to be more specific, I got to go with Adolis Garcia.
Yeah.
First of all, because he really makes the Astros fans mad.
Mm-hmm.
But gosh, he was the MVP of the series. What, he had 5 RBIs last night?
Yeah.
And he had that big grand slam.
Fantastic, yeah.
What a player.
As the temperature got hot, he got hotter. He turned it on.
And a lot of this after they plunked him.
Yep.
For hitting a home run.
Yep.
So
you think it was on purpose?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why they did. Kind of understand. He kind of showboated after hitting the home run, so they plunked him. But what do I say all the time? I don't buy into the unwritten rules of baseball and the angst and the frustration of cheating and things like that. Just play. You know what? It's why you're going to throw a baseball at somebody because he celebrated a home run, right?
Yep.
Well, what are you going to do? The same teams, the same fans like that are so upset about it in Houston? If name me a Houston wide receiver, Texans.
The kid from U of H, I forgot his name.
Tank Dell.
There you go, Tank Dell.
If he scores a touchdown and does a dance, are you offended by that?
Not really.
So why are baseball players such wussies?
But people were very offended at the kiss from the UCF player. Was it UCF? You remember that, Luke?
Yeah, it was.
UCF
I believe he used to play at Oklahoma.
Yeah, towards the Oklahoma bench. Did you see that? He had a big touchdown, and people were not happy. Stop him.
Yeah, I mean, of all the things people get worked up about, it's just stupid to me.
All right, let's do one more because we're way late for a break. How about Myles Garrett? Can I interest you in a little Myles Garrett?
I like Myles. Tell me about him.
Nick, can you pull up his stats? Because the dude was phenomenal.
Blocked a field goal.
And by the way, did you see the timing of that one? He jumped over.
Yes.
That was beautiful.
He looked like the Hulk.
Yep. Absolutely looked like the Hulk. Just an incredible season that he's having. My computer froze, so I can't look up his stats. But just an amazing year. And
he forced a fumble and got
forced
it for
a fumble.
Touchdown.
There we go. 9 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 1 blocked field goal. And that Browns team offensively has been really bad. Even Deshaun Watson, really bad. It has been their defense, and he's the best on their defense. Looking like just an incredible year for Myles Garrett.
He's amazing. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, me neither. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with Shireen Williams, who I'm sure will talk about Myles, and she'll probably talk a little bit about the Astros and Rangers series. Right now, we're talking about the Charge apparel. What kind of shirt am I wearing right now, OB? Yeah, it is a Charge shirt. I'm charging it up with the Charge apparel. 12% of their total sales go to organizations that support U.S. veterans and mental health initiatives. They got all the great clothes, guys. When you check out their polos and tees, it doesn't matter how big, tall, skinny, or the other side that you may be. The clothes are going to fit you the right way. They are slightly tailored fit through your chest and arms, designed to make you look and feel your best out there. You've got Tucker and Travis. Tucker commissioned to the U.S. Army, Travis commissioned to the Air Force, and after separating from the military, they formed the Charge Apparel as a way to serve their country through veteran nonprofits that they support. Remember, they met at A&M, so they're Aggies, they're diehards, they live in Austin. That's all right. They come here all the time because they love this great community. Check out the website, thechargeapparel.com. Find them on Instagram, The Charge Apparel, or on X, The Charge Brand. It's The Charge Apparel. Hey, everybody. I was just over there reading my computer. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Looking at the wrong camera. That's all right, because we're going to go to the hotline. We're going to talk to Shireen Williams from Pro Football Talk. She's a great Aggie, and, of course, she's a Hall of Famer here on the program. Shireen, good morning.
Good morning. How are we doing today?
Interestingly, I am not as depressed as I thought I would be with the Astros loss. Maybe because I didn't invest into the last night's game very long. It was pretty much over early on.
Yeah, right.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. Fortunately, the last two nights I had football games to cover, so kind of the same thing. I turned it off after the sixth inning, so I don't even know what the final score was. So somebody told me, John McClain told me Altuve hit a home run in the ninth inning, but yeah, it was over early, and congratulations to all my Rangers fans. They deserve this after all the heartbreak and disappointment and bad seasons they've gone through. But I'll say this, if you don't finish it off, this means nothing. It means we've been there We've been there and lost World Series. It means nothing if you don't win it. There's nothing like winning a World Series. So if you're going to get this far, go win it. Don't sit on this laurel and say, hey, we beat the Astros, because no one remembers the loser of the World Series.
As someone who grew up watching teams that were lucky to win 54 games sometimes, I'm feeling pretty good about just getting there.
No, you want to win it all.
Of course.
You're going to be so heartbroken if they lose. You got to win it all.
Yeah, you know what? I'm
You
just
gotta win
assuming
it
they
all.
won't, but because that's been working for me.
All right, I like that. The reverse genius.
Hey, Shireen, let's. This is a weird question to ask, but do you feel any more optimistic after a bye week at all, considering what's happened in college football, considering what A&M may have had time to improve, or are you just like still the same place we've been since maybe the end of last season? Show me something first.
Yeah, probably the same place, but, having a bye week always helps you recover. Hopefully the injuries are better and you have more people available and all those sorts of things. So, yeah, I think from that standpoint, it's always good coming off that off week to reset mentally and physically and get back on it. But as far as my feelings for them, yeah, you got to show me something. Show me that you're as good as I think you are. And I've only seen bits of that this season, so I want to see more of it.
Shireen, I am going to give you a $10 million a year contract guaranteed for 10 years. I'm giving this to you, and you're in charge. You are now the Aggies coach. What did you emphasize and work on the most in the open week?
I like it.
Well, there was a lot, but I think truly just the fundamentals, just getting the little stuff right. And I think it's been little stuff, a bunch of little stuff, which adds up to big stuff that's really stymied them. But it's the line play. If the line play is not any better, especially the offensive line, if the offensive line play is not any better, it's going to continue like we've seen. If Max doesn't have any time to throw the ball down the field, this is what it's going to be. They've got to figure out how to better block, and they haven't figured that out. The short yardage situation is horrendous. You've got to figure out how to pick up 1 yard when you need 1 yard. And this is a team, every time you look at it, you're like, they're not going to pick up 1 yard. And get out of the shotgun on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Get out of the shotgun. You don't want to see the shotgun in short yardage situations. That's ridiculous. So all those things I hope they worked on, especially the offensive line play.
Talking to Shireen Williams here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Roller Insurance Studio. All right, Aggie Hoops. Now, I had a question for you because we're starting to ramp up our Aggie Hoops coverage, and as we get closer to the start, a week from today, right?
I don't know.
Soon. I know. Oh, Buzz will be on our show a week from today. Just your thoughts on this team bringing back 88% of their returning personnel. Just your thoughts on what the season could look like.
I'm excited, especially when you have a football season that doesn't quite live up to your expectations. I think you get excited for, it's kind of like what Olin said. When you have losses, you look forward to something that's going to be good, and I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a good season. So I can't wait, and I can't wait to see the product they're going to put on the court, and I think it's going to be even better than it was last year, and I had a lot of fun watching this team last year. So I think it's going to bring me and all Aggies a lot of joy, and hopefully the women's team is much better and they're making strides, and it's going to be a good basketball season, I think.
I took the time yesterday to look up where all the NCAA tournament sites are going to be in the first and second rounds, and I was thinking, okay, if you're a 1 seed, is it going to be Memphis? Let's hope for Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City's awesome. Don't want to be Spokane.
Wow.
That's how optimistic I am for this basketball season.
Or maybe you're pessimistic about the football team and ready for something.
I need
good.
something to take to feel good about. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. There you go.
Shireen, let's get into the Aggies in the NFL because I know who your number one guy is going to be, but who else is on the list?
Well, Well, we're going to give a little shout out to Braid Man. I think he's found a perfect place for him where he doesn't have to punt a lot. And we know he has to punt a couple times a game. I think it's a wanted game actually right now. He does very well, and he had one punt for the Eagles the other day, 57 yards. So just outstanding. So a little honorable mention shout out there. Justin Matabuke, 3 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, just quietly doing his thing and stacking up those sacks. You like to see it. Ravens won big. Number 2, Christian Kirk. Everybody forgets because they played on Thursday night last week. But 6 catches, 90 yards, a touchdown.
Big
and that
touchdown.
Victory over the Saints. Yeah. And number 1, as you mentioned, likely going to be AFC Defensive Player of the Week. And if you haven't seen, I don't know if they've changed back yet, but last night, NFL.com changed their profile page, and it had a picture of Myles Garrett wearing the chain on the sideline, the turnover chain on the sideline, and it said Myles Defensive Player of the Year, DPOY, question mark, and it has the eyes on there. So it's pretty exciting for him. I think he is the leader in the clubhouse for Defensive Player of the Year. Block field goal, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure everybody's seen it, but if you haven't, please go back and find it. The video is readily available, jumps over the line without making contact, blocks the field goal, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, just an incredible performance, single-handedly won that game for the Browns. Just an unbelievable performance, probably one of the best defensive performances we've seen in the NFL in years. Just incredible. And I think this is what we all expected to see out of Myles, but also think about how far he has come from his meltdown against the Steelers, and I thought he was going to have a hard time coming back from that simply because you wear that scarlet letter from now on in your career, and I think people have forgotten about that and forgiven him for that, and now everyone's just talking about his great play, which is how it should be. An outstanding player, as we all know, and as we all live, and as we all wish we still had.
I never saw the big deal about that whole. Was it Zach Randolph? Is that I know it was an Oklahoma State quarterback. I can't remember what. I mean, he's just trying to help him get his helmet back on.
That was nice.
Like, here, let me help you get this back on.
Yeah, there you go.
Shireen, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Player.
Talk to you next week.
Thank you, guys.
I wonder if my memory sometimes plays tricks. You know what I'm trying to say? Plays tricks on me. Was
Get
Myles
Bushwick Bill.
Was Myles, Christian Kirk, and Justin Matabike ever on the same team?
I think we have to have Luke work on that during the break.
Because those are top 3.
5 seconds. Yeah.
Man, there was A&M. A&M's had talent. Talent's not been the issue here.
Well, this we know. Getting it done has been a different thing. When we come back, Luke is going to have us guess the lines.
Oh, yeah.
No cheating involved in this at all. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. All right, let's guess the line, shall we? Can we
Let's do it.
All right, Luke Evangelist of the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Luke?
Let's start it out hot with the best game of the week, probably. Let's go Indiana at Penn State.
Penn State by 19.5.
Yeah, after last week, I might have to pump the brakes a little bit. It's Penn State by 13.5.
It is Penn State minus 32.
All right.
32.
Okay.
Indiana is really bad.
I know they are, but Penn State looked like a poser last week.
Poser.
Yeah, you could say the ink dried on Penn State.
By the way, people comparing the Penn State situation to the A&M situation, completely different.
I didn't know anybody was.
Yeah, there was some people on the boards.
Oh.
I mean, they've had a better run against lesser opponents, but they've had a better run. Go ahead.
Yeah, next up, Oregon at Utah. I think it's the only ranked matchup of the week.
Oregon at Utah. Utah by 2.5.
Oregon by 2.5.
Oregon by 7.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Props to Oregon.
But Utah, man, they're not that talented, but they are just tough as nails, and they don't typically make a lot of mistakes. Kyle Whittingham's a heck of a football coach.
He is.
Yeah,
I like him.
Vanderbilt at Ole Miss.
Ole Miss by 19.5. I'm going back to that same number.
Ole Miss by, what was the Indiana one?
32.
Ole Miss by 31.
It's Ole Miss by 25.5.
All right.
Next up, we've got if every Astros fan in the office got in an Anchorman style fight with every Rangers fan in the office. You remember an Anchorman?
All right.
Where all the news networks.
We could do that here in this College Station community and figure it out.
Right. So who's winning? Like, what
the Astros
is the line
fans.
for that?
Billy, myself, the McKinney brothers. It's over.
Well,
I'm assuming they're Astros fans.
Once you throw in the McKinney brothers, I'm not going to argue that.
All right. Olin, Gabe, Rusty. Who else?
Well,
me, Dalton.
Hey, let me tell you something.
Dalton would be.
Don't underestimate Rusty Burson.
Okay.
That guy can hurt people.
Okay. Plural? Multiple people?
Yes.
Okay. Bronny, myself, Billy. Over.
I'm taking Rusty in all those. I'm serious.
Luke.
Okay.
Now me and Gabe.
It's going to be 1-on-3.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's over. Sorry, Rusty.
I could probably film the interaction. I could probably get video evidence.
Well, you're a Rangers guy, so you could be involved.
I don't want to be involved if
And Nick's
looking at
involved.
what I'm up against. I could probably take Nick, but that's about it.
Wow, Nick, did you hear that?
No, I mean, me and Nick, it would be competitive. Everyone else, I
heard you say you'd take Nick.
And I never want to host another show with you again, Luke, so hope you enjoyed it.
Hey.
Would that be a flyweight matchup?
140
Definitely,
pounds?
yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, like Volkanovski. That means nothing to you. I'm willing to bet that Gabe and Luke versus me would go the me way.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, see, Luke, first of all, you have a handicap. You have Gabe.
Why are we? He's celebrating today.
Because you know he's listening.
Yes.
So
He's
I'm
no, if he was
him.
listening, he would have responded to the joke earlier from you.
Maybe.
Someone's going to tell him.
Yeah.
We love you, Gabe. All right. What else?
We've gotten way off track, but Georgia at it versus Florida.
Oh, in Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville, yeah. I'm going to say Georgia by 16.5.
Oh, I think that's very accurate. I'll say Georgia by 17. Price is right.
It's Georgia by 14.5.
Okay, that was close.
Mississippi State at Auburn.
Oh, my.
Battle for the
Talk
bottom of
about
the
a pillow
West.
fight.
Auburn by 2.5.
They're the home team. Yeah, I'm going to actually take Auburn. Auburn by what, the home team always gets 3?
Yeah.
Auburn by 4.
Okay.
It's Auburn by 6.5.
Okay.
And finally, Tennessee at Kentucky.
Ooh.
Kentucky by 1.5.
Kentucky by 2, yeah.
It's Tennessee by 3.5.
By the way, I haven't looked at A&M South Carolina spread. I'm assuming A&M by 6.5. Am I right?
I would think it'd be more than that.
It is A&M by 14.
Okay, cool. Love it. Olin, thank you, sir.
Bet.
Luke, you stay around, all right? When we come back on TexAgs Radio, the dueling Jamies. First Jamie McCoy, then Jamie Morrison, and then the KBTX Roundtable. A loaded 9 o'clock hour. It's TexAgs Radio. All right, we are back. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2. I'm going to have to, mute people. I've never been a blocker. Never. And I don't think I want to do that because I think there's too much power in blocking for the other person. But, there's a lot of topics on social media that I feel like for my mental health, I need to stay away from. And maybe it has to do with the little rivalry between two cities. Some of it has to do with the way the football team is going. And, there's just some topics that I want to avoid. I want a happy place. That's exactly where I want to be. But let's see if our next guest is in a happier place because last week he was not in a good place. His name is Jamie McCoy. He's former Texas A&M tight end. Of course, you saw him in the pros as well at the NFL. Jamie, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing, David?
I'm all right, man. I think better than I was last week. I think a little time off can kind of send somebody in a better place. But just how are you feeling with things in regards to this program with a few days off and no game this weekend and hopefully a team that is a little bit focused down the stretch?
I feel good. I feel better. I feel like the week off and getting to watch other teams play and the few upsets that we got to see, I think a week off was good for me and the rest of us Aggies out there. That it's about time. It feels like we need a game, which is coming this Saturday. But that week off was well deserved, well needed, and I hope we got some good work done.
We kind of touched a little bit on this last week, but I don't think I went this direction with it. But how much do you think can be fixed in a bye week when it comes to actual football? Is it more of a health thing? Is it more of a let's get back to basics thing? Let's get back to fundamentals thing? Is it a philosophy thing? What do you think can actually change in the time off?
For us, I think it's a little bit of both. I think you get a little bit healthy. I think guys who might have had some little knick-knack injuries, I know Evan has been dealing with a few things. Max has had his hand dinged a couple times. We've had a few players that have had some little lingering things. I think it gives those guys time to get healthy, and if not 100% healthy, as close as you can get back to it. And then on the other standpoint, one, you always get to allow the young guys who haven't gotten a chance to play as much to get a few more reps with those other guys being hurt. But at the same time, you also get to a lot of the stuff that we've been bad on is like little mental errors, little accountability stuff. So maybe with the bye week, you're able to kind of emphasize that and put more attention and focus on doing the little things right and finishing the play and for the defense getting off the field and for the offense putting points on the board.
How beneficial can it be for Max? Let's say that they had this system in place because they thought they were going to go the Connor direction. Connor gets hurt. They have to kind of adjust on the fly. Now you have time to really fix offensive strategy behind your quarterback. Is that something that you think took place?
I absolutely think that's something that took place. You finally had time to not be worrying about the next opponent. You got to worry about yourself. And for us, I think it would have been super. We'll see on Saturday, but I think it would have been super beneficial to do some things that Max likes, do some things that Max does well. I know in our last game against Tennessee, there was one play that sticks out to me is him doing the play action and rolling out to the right with him being left-handed. We need to be doing stuff more towards his strength.
How about blocking? It's been an issue. It's been an issue for a few years now. And I know this team has gotten better the last couple of years as the season goes on, but they don't have a lot of real estate to play with. How much of the blocking issues are technique, blown assignments, timing with your quarterback? Like, when you look at the blocking issues, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing us just being overwhelmed. Granted, you never know when a blitz is coming or if this guy is actually coming, dropping in the zone or whatnot. But a good offensive line is prepared. You're ready for whatever, but you're expecting the worst. And if it doesn't happen, then you should be, fall back and help out another guy. But for us, it seems like we think that we got an idea, and then something else comes, and we're not ready/prepared for it. This bye week can be beneficial for those guys as well. I would like to hope that they got some type of synergy a five that they're ready to stick with and ready to put it all out there on the line. Yeah, again, synergy is the main thing. These guys need to just be on one accord, acting as one unit. If we're zoning to the right, everybody needs to be stepping to the right. It's just all getting on one accord, and I'm hoping that with the strength of these next opponents that we're going to play, I'm hoping that we're able to go out there and dictate how we want to be as an offense instead of being reactive.
Let me ask you this. Look, I want to be optimistic because I think the bye week can go a long way. But if it wasn't fixed during the offseason, right? Why is a week going to make a difference? Is it philosophical? Or is it just guys making mistakes?
I think it's guys making mistakes, and I really think that week gives you a chance to pause. You think about the NFL bye week. You're going through hell out there, banging around with guys, and then you finally get a week to just let your brain relax. You get to go back to your college town and see some people that you haven't seen. It's the same thing for college. You may get to go home and see some familiar faces, go see some old teachers that you had in high school. It just gives you a chance to press pause, relax for a second, get your bearings about you, and then when you come back for practice, you should be re-energized and ready to finish out the season. Ideally, that's what you get. Some teams can take this opportunity and waste it, whether it be guys going out of town and not coming back on time. There's a plethora of ways that it can be wasted, but I think that these guys know what's at stake, know what can be gained from the end of this season and what can be lost. So I'm hoping that we handle this the right way. I'm knowing that we handle this the right way. I'm ready for these guys to show that on Saturday.
Jamie, let's just for a moment say you get to be the consigliere for Jimbo Fisher, right? Yeah, the advisor. You're in his ear. What are you telling him? Hey, man, I really think we need to do this. What is that? This, if that even makes sense the way I phrased it.
I'm gonna say, hey, Jimbo, you got some studs over here on offense. Like y'all said, feed the studs. Let's switch the pace. Let's go hurry up. Let's get a lead, and then you can try milking the clock and doing your thinking dump. But until you have a 2-score lead, all the slow the game down needs to cease. We need to be attacking people downfield. With us having this bye week, I got to see Bama, Tennessee, a lot of these games. And some of these teams are so good, the way that you beat them is you attack them down the field and give your one-on-one, let your guy go out there and make a play over their guy. A lot of times we don't give our guys a chance to do that. So I would tell Jimbo, let your guy, you got 5-star guys, let them go be 5-stars. Stop putting them in a box, take the governor off of Petrino, and let him cook.
All right, so let's go down that path right now. So let's say pace-wise. When you say pace, you're not only meaning snapping the ball quickly and getting to the line quickly. You're talking about 3-step drop, find your guy, fire, let's go. It's 3 seconds to get it all done.
Yeah. Yes, 3 steps to that, and believe it or not, that's going to help out your linemen. If they know, if the defensive line know, or I can't say if they know, because they don't know what we're calling, but if we know on the offensive line, hey, Max is going to have this ball out within 2 seconds. That gives them, that allows them to let their hair down and know, hey, I just got to hold my guy for a second and a half. And not only that, that pace may even help out your run game, not allowing guys to sub in when they want to, holding us back. I mean, if you use pace can be used as a weapon. I know this year Oklahoma has been using it a lot. I just think it's something that we're not taking advantage of, and it could help us out, especially with our O-line struggling the way it has been.
Why do you think we haven't seen that?
Man, I think Jimbo has a lot of old school NFL West Coast qualities about him. He wants to slow the game down, go on an 8-9 minute, 12, 15 play drive, score a touchdown, get a stop on defense, and do that thing again. Similar to what we were 3-4 years ago when we had a nice season that we had. I think it was 10-2. He ideally he would love to do that, but the college game has changed, and you've got to be willing to go with the flow of things. These guys, the offensive talent this day and age, they want to run and gun. The scores are higher than they've ever been, and we need to facilitate that. Instead of, like I said, it's almost like we're keeping the reins on our guys trying to dink and dunk. And it's like, no, we need to be – I would love for us to be scoring in 5 plays. Get a drive, put the pressure on the other team's offense instead of it always being on us trying to play catch-up. I love for us to have the lead and make other teams try to chase after us.
And how about simplifying, right? Like, I'm not saying that Max isn't getting the offense, but I just think when you can just go with, I don't know what the number is. Jamie, you tell me, is it 20 basic plays to go into where you have different variations, something just simplify to where it's just quick and the decision-making is kind of handed to you, right? It's just, this is your read, this is your read, move on.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. We need to be, what they say, kids, keep it simple, stupid. Implementing screens, whether it be receivers blocking for receivers when you're doing a quick screen, whether it be getting the running backs involved in that way. These teams have been pressuring us a lot. So letting the pressure come to Max and then dumping it off for a little bubble screen or a running back screen, a tight end screen even. We've got the tight ends that are capable of doing that. I would love to see us implement these things. Again, this is all speculation on our end. We got to see what these guys come out there and put on tape on Saturday. But I would love for us to simplify things, get Max, catch the ball, get it out of your hand in 2 seconds, and let's move this thing down the field. I'm hoping that that's what we see.
Yeah, you know, this seems like such a duh comment. Like, of course, Nuño, but how about complimentary football? When a team struggles to get points in the second half, right? Like, you can't have the special team blunders, but what you can have is special teams that keeps you in the game, a defense that creates turnovers, all parts of it going, because you look at the games that A&M was able to win and feel comfortable, it was complimentary football.
Yeah, and that's what you've got to play. It's got to be all 3 phases acted in one accord. It can't be one side of the ball comes with it and the other side is just praying that the other side can help them out in some fashion. Everybody needs to have their hand in the pile. And, yes, with special teams, that's a huge part of it. I think the special team side is just really all accountability. You know your lane that you're running down, whether it be kickoff or punt team. It's all about special teams comes down to heart. Whose will is who's gonna impose their will on another man? And I know that we've got the athletes capable. Again, it comes down to accountability and a guy doing his job, his 111 that he's supposed to do. Whether that's the punter, the kicker, the guy that's blocking, the personal protector, everybody has to do their job. And with this week off, I'm hoping everybody has a chance to, again, settle and be ready for what's ahead, what's coming down the line for us in the SEC play.
We spent the last 12 minutes talking offense. What about defense, where they've been really good? There's some issues, obviously, in coverage situations. What do you think the defense can figure out in the time away?
The defense has been so great. I hate to even try to harp on those guys. You could do something some more with our blitzing. But I like the change that they made, putting DeBerry back there at safety. I don't know if that's going to stay there, but I like him in the middle. He seemed to be making plays that are well within his range. I don't like putting him on an island out there with the opposing team's best receiver. Maybe that's where we could do something at corner, whether it's pressing, off coverage, zone blitzing. We need to find a way to give our secondary a break. With as good as our front seven is, whether it's applying pressure or backing out, we need to complement the secondary better. I'd like to see that as well.
Well, Jamie, I'm going to give you a little number here. South Carolina, this is not the number, this is just the fact. Their offensive line has been hurt all year long. They've been decimated by injury. They've given up 30 sacks, I believe 6 in the last game. When I give you that information, considering it was Missouri who had 6, it was North Carolina who had 9 sacks against them. I give you those numbers knowing what A&M's defense has done against other opponents. What can we expect this weekend?
Man, with our front seven, they should be licking their chops. And especially, I don't know if this has been the case with our Aggies, but I know when I was playing there, you would have a vendetta with some teams. I know South Carolina beating us last year in their place should never have happened. And I'm hoping that the guys, the upperclassmen that we have, kind of let the younger classmen know, hey, we are about to put something on these boys. I don't know if vendettas are real with our team right now, but I'm hoping that is the case. So we should at least have 6. I'm gonna put a goal out there of 10. I love to see DJ Durkin let those boys wreak havoc. So let's put a somewhat realistic goal of 10 out there and see if that can be reached.
All right, let's close out with this, and I'm going to be optimistic when I ask this question. What does a big win, not just a win, a big win? We're talking about a game where they get those double-digit sacks and they score 30-plus points and they win comfortably 2 or 3 scores. What does that do for them going on the road to Ole Miss and maybe for the rest of the year?
I'm hoping that propels them to know what they can do when they all play on one accord and put their minds together and use each other in the proper way. I'm hoping that it allows these guys to know what they're capable of, and I'm hoping that it allows them to say, hey, South Carolina might not have been up to the par of Tennessee or Alabama, but if we take care of what we do, if we worry about ourselves and not the opponent, just do what we do well and take care of us, we can play with anybody. So hopefully this gives them some confidence and lets them know, hey, let's see if we can travel and take this show on the road and salvage our season.
Jamie, I appreciate it, bro. Let's talk next week, hopefully after a win.
All right. Sounds good, David.
Thank you, sir. Giggle. Jamie McCoy here on the hotline. All right, we're going to hit a break here. Hey, Nick, I feel like we got to remind the audience on Friday we're taking the show on the road. Do you remember the situation, the details on that?
Of course I do.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll be in South College Station at the Angry Elephant down there from 8 to 11. Come hang out with us. We're going to have a good showing. CC Creations will be there selling TexAgs merch and whatnot. So, come hang out. Good kickoff to your South Carolina weekend.
Well, I just got a note from Bruce on the YouTube page. It says his son's going to come out to the Angry Elephant, goes to Blinn, works out at Apex, and will love talking a little MMA with us. So there we go. And maybe he can be on my team whenever we do this MMA tournament between the TexAgs staff.
Yeah, we got to see if he's an Astros or Rangers fan, though.
This is true.
That's the qualifier.
This is true. All right, let's hit a break here. When we come back, Jamie Morrison, Aggie volleyball coach, will be here in studio. We'll chit-chat with him. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. Go check out the great work. By the way, follow Chance on social media. Chance McClain, he's the owner. He's got a lot of the clips of the things he works on. Such a creative, great guy. But here's the options for you. You can get a Yearflix video done for your kid. So, Bruce, I'm talking to you. Your son's name is Paul. All right, well, Paul goes to Blinn. Why not get a Yearflix done on Paul, right, where it's like a 20-minute video, Q&A form, getting to know Paul as his freshman or sophomore year, right, and things he's into, the classes he's taking. The 20-minute, like, highly Hollywood-esque style video. The next year, sophomore year, junior year, you do another one, and senior year. And now you have this 4-part story about your kid in college that is going to be done at the highest level. So that's the Yearflix option. You also have the documentary option, right? Heritage Films does these documentaries about families. You can do it about your dad, your uncle, the first Aggie in your family, right? You can do it for like group outings. Like your group gets together and they play golf every Friday morning. You guys skip work and you get together. Have the camera crew out there and capture these amazing moments and then watch them as a group. Very emotional when you do that, especially when it's like your grandfather, your dad, and then you get to watch it with the grandkids. It's fantastic. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. Let's talk a little Aggie volleyball here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Jamie Morrison in the studio. Hello, sir.
Hello. Always a highlight of my week, let me tell you.
Well, I watched your presser yesterday. I feel, and tell me if this is right, kind of even keel after good things and rough weekends, right? Like that's kind of your approach. You just get back to work the next day anyway.
100%. I think we talk a lot just about one of our main key tenets is being an optimistic problem solver of like, we're going to find a way out of it. So same thing when we lose. It's so you got to look at it, you got to learn from it. And if you don't do that, it's a waste. So yeah, just taking a look at kind of what we can get better at. Not the weekend we were hoping for. And I felt like we got into the Florida match and we came out and we were playing really well. And felt like we were a sailboat in the middle of the second set. The wind just died, and it died for the weekend, I felt like. So chance to recharge over the last couple of days, and then we start to get back to work tomorrow.
How do you not allow that to be a thing, right? So it becomes a thing over a weekend. How do you not allow that to be Tennessee and beyond?
Yeah, I think you got to identify what went wrong and just, I don't know, be honest and look at yourself. I think myself as a head coach, be honest with our players and have them look at themselves and figure out what they can do better when we come back in on Wednesday. So it's got to be different. The thing that was disappointing last week was a good week of practice. I thought we practiced really, really well. And then again, the Florida match, I thought we came out really, really well. And then again, the rest was history. But I think it's learned. I think it's turn the page. I think it's if you harp on it for too long, then it's going to drag you down. So it's got to be like, hey, we learned from it. These are the things we're going to upgrade the next time this happens or something similar happens. These are the things we're going to work on in practice, and then turn the page of the book. And we're on to Tennessee and how to beat them.
How about the emotional grind of a season for, along with they got school to take care of, right? Like there's so many things that are happening, and maybe 1 week is great, but then the next week, like you just feel the weight of the season.
Yeah, and this is I've talked about it all year just with this group is, and I think I talked about it when we played Arkansas. I'm like, okay, maybe we're ready to go beat a good team right now because we're able to play volleyball for long stretches. And then I think after the Missouri loss, I talked about like the next evolution of this is can we play good over 2 weeks? And then the thing we've been talking about as a staff that we're going to talk about as a team is just there's chapters to your season. There's your non-con, your kind of preseason-ish type thing, and then there's your conference, which we're in the middle of right now, and then there's your postseason and the NCAA tournament. And when I took over this program, the goal is to get it into the tournament every single year and to go as far as humanly possible. And that's a new chapter for a lot of the people that are on this team. So we got to learn how to treat this middle one as the proving grounds that get us to the one that we absolutely want to go as far as possible. And so it's a grind. Like I've come in here and I hope it comes across just how much empathy and sympathy I have for our athletes in terms of what they're able to go out and do in terms of balancing school, balancing athletics, balancing taking care of their body, their energy systems. But it's a grind we got to go through if we want to get to where we want to go.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I want to ask something, and I'm thinking football here that can be applied in all sports, but how much can be fixed in season? You know what I'm saying? Like, you are who you are, and you can kind of get better at things, but can if there's gaping holes, can that be fixed in season?
First, just I'll get on our team. I don't think we're broken. This is what I told our team. Like, we didn't get to where we were at just based on luck. Like, we played really good volleyball for long stretches, and I think the biggest thing we got to do is go back to the things that got us here, of the things that we were doing in the non-con chapter that allowed us to go out and I think we were 9-0 or whatever it was at one point and playing good volleyball. So I don't think we're broken. Can gaping holes in technique and fundamentals be fixed overnight? No. I think I've said it on the air here. Talent takes time. So I don't think like gaping holes can be fixed in the season, but I think there can be tweaks. I think it has to be focused energy. I think you got to go into the week saying, "Hey, we're going to get better at these 3 things." If you got 25 holes, you're not getting better at all of them at once.
Right.
But if you got like pick 2 or 3, I think you can get better at those in 2 or 3 days if you focus your energy on those things and making change.
I tell my kids when it comes to some issues they may have with sports or academics is think of it as sand in an hourglass, and like it's the practice on top of the practice on top of the practice, and then after a while, there you are.
Yeah. Well, 100%. Like it takes time, and I think everybody wants it now. I think coaches want it now. I think you want to say something, you want there to be change, both in skill, behavior, everything. But all of those things take time. They take opportunities to get it wrong. They take opportunities to get it right, and they take feedback on all of that. And then you get a different human being, a different volleyball player, a different football player, if we're going in football terms.
You talk about the different chapters. How much of this team is, because it's first for a lot of these players, like in-game problem solving, right? Like there's problem solving the week of, But then in the game, there's problems that arise and how they kind of overcome that.
Yeah, and I think we've got better at that. I think even the Georgia loss, like we were problem solving within that, and we started to get some touches late that we weren't getting early. And it's looking back at it, it was do set, and then the third set obviously got away from us at the end. But I thought we were actively trying to make changes, and this is where it was disappointing. It wasn't necessarily a lack of effort. It wasn't a lack of trying to do something different. It was they made a couple plays late, and that happens in sports. And hats off to Georgia. I thought they played one of their better matches of the year. Unfortunately, it was against us. But I think that's a learned skill within a team of not just hey everything's going to be okay, but how are we going to make it okay? And we're getting better at that for sure.
Before we started the interview, you told me Tennessee's good. Tell us a little bit about Tennessee.
Yeah, they're balanced. They had a transfer come in, added another pin for them in the offseason. Again, I wasn't around last year, but just what I know about them. And I think balanced just in terms of offensively. They have different people that can hurt you in different ways. I think if you look at the rankings, they got one of the best players in the league. I think we do too. They're both in the top 5, I think, in points per set. But Morgan Fingal, their opposite, is I think a grad senior and pretty good. She's developed a lot over her, I think, 5 years at Tennessee. So she's really good. But I think the balance side also comes in. They're really good on block and D. They get a lot of touches. They slow things down. They aren't necessarily as terminal like us with stuff blocks, but they slow things down and they have a good transition offense. So they're a handful. And we're at their house. So we've been good on the road, but traveling somewhere else and somebody else's home den is a little bit harder. So, but we're looking forward to the challenge.
You know, we talked about it being first time for some of the players, but for you too, right? Like this is your first foray through the SEC, so you're learning these teams, and you'll be better come tournament time and beyond.
For sure. Yeah, and it's been interesting because I was just actually thinking back to this because we played Florida for the second time. And I'm like, I know the names of the players. Mm-hmm. Like, I can think back to the last match and the tendencies that happened and what the setter likes to do in this situation. And so for me, too, just learning each of these teams as we go through once. The second time, I'm a little bit clearer on stuff. And then I think back to next year or think forward to next year when all of this isn't going to be new. It's the players that we saw last year, and we get to build on top of that. So, it's a exploration for me. But I'm getting to know the SEC pretty well.
Last thing for you. You touched on it yesterday, but I wanted to follow it up. What do you attribute your success on the road to? You mentioned the structure behind it and how hard it is to replicate at home, too, because of outside noise.
Yeah, it's not necessarily noise. Like, I don't think it's them it's the structure. Like, I don't know, for me, internationally, when we go, we're in a foreign country, every match is a road match for the most part. Mm-hmm. Even when you're at home, you're not in your home gym, you're somewhere else. So you're taking a bus to practice. And it just creates this structure of the day that, like, I get on the bus and then I get off the bus and it's business time. And then I get back on the bus and go home and it's time for kind of decompress a little bit. And then I get back on the bus and I go to the match. And there's this flow of, like, focus and unfocus that happens within it. And when you're at home, again, I don't think people, really kind of understand what these student athletes do. If it's on a Friday, like, they might be going to school for half the day. Right. And then the focus thing is like, okay, now I need to get off of, calculus or biology and get on to how do we beat Florida. So there's just that not really that kind of focus unfocus. It's kind of the day happens. So I think there's a piece of that goes along with it that made us really good on the road. And I think I bring a little bit of my international kind of scheduling and the way that we do things that kind of help in that a little bit. But it's harder to replicate that at home a little bit. So we're actually brainstorming. We played around with it, and I think we started off better on Friday against Florida with doing an earlier serve pass and then kind of letting them go to school and then kind of coming back in afterwards. So we'll probably stick with that, but try and find ways to replicate that while we're at home.
Thank you, Jamie.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
like I said, always a pleasure.
Yeah, gig them and go get it. Let's right now, caller number 1, we're going to give you a free car wash from Aggie Land Express Car Wash in South College Station off of William D. Fitch in Greens Prairie. They are Aggie owned and operated with the friendliest staff, but they offer a monthly membership, and we're going to give a free car wash right now for caller number 1 here on Aggie Land Express Car Wash at 979-693-1150. It's almost basketball season. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Time to welcome in our friends from KBTX, Daryl Bruffett. Hello, sir.
How are you doing?
All right.
I was ready to say howdy first.
Oh.
Because usually you open it up to both of us.
Yeah, but I wanted to go in between because I knew you had a plan. Nicole, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Howdy.
The Rangers won last night.
They did. They did win. Congratulations to the Rangers.
Don't need to go down that road.
Sorry, Daryl. We are an office divided.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's a Rangers fan in the office?
Tyler.
Oh, is he? Okay.
And I've become one on principle.
Because you like to upset Daryl?
No, not intentionally, but on principle that everyone around here is an Astros fan.
Well, I mean, when you've been the best in baseball the last decade, like I get it. Like, it's easy to like the winner.
Yeah.
But congratulations to the Rangers.
I like a underdog.
Yes, congratulations to our Ranger friends.
Yeah.
Best of luck to them.
So, but I assume for you as well, growing up, I got to see a lot of Rangers games because HSC, which was the network before it became Fox Sports or whatever it was, would put Rangers games in Houston all the time. You were in this area. I assume Rangers games were being played on
Yeah,
TV
but I had
here.
the unique opportunity of, I grew up in Alvin. And I worked for the Alvin Sun Advertiser in Alvin, which was a newspaper. And God, man, I was in the Astrodome when Nolan Ryan was pitching.
Yeah.
We were talking to Nolan Ryan, after he's pitching, and I mean, that was just the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So growing up, I was a Kansas City Royals fan because I lived in Kansas City for a little bit. But once we moved to Alvin, I became an Astros fan. So, there's no Ranger blood in me.
There you go. So how do we feel after this bye week? How did you spend your bye week? Just kind of tell me where we are when it comes to you, this Aggie football team, and just moving on.
I think I feel better. I feel rested. I personally feel rested. No, I think the team feels rested. If they really needed it. You go 7 straight weeks of hard football, especially in the SEC, and they're getting beat up. You saw Edgerrin go out. You saw Regis go out. You saw they were losing the defensive players, and so
Walter Nolan.
And so it was just. I mean, I should have remembered that one. He was carted off. But they needed it. And so I think they needed this break. I think it is still – you're not going to feel maybe super optimistic because the way they went into the bye. Mm-hmm. I feel like you want the bye because every year you're going to have it and it's a break. But especially coming into it with a 2-game losing skid, no one feels good after that. So you feel better, but that's on the forefront of your mind.
Daryl?
I spent.
Tell us how you spent your bye.
I spent the weekend as arm candy.
Okay.
Lori, is the general manager at KBTX, and she was invited out to Atlanta for it was called the Assembly Gala. Great television. Just opened up 130-acre movie television production lot, and they had a big gala. It was really cool to be there. The entertainers, Sheryl Crow, CeeLo Green, Gladys Knight, Dionne Warwick. I mean, it was the party of the year, if not the party of the years, in Atlanta, and I was there, and it was pretty cool.
Fun, man.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I missed high school football for a second straight Friday, and I was telling our news director, Josh Smith, I said, man, I do my whole job for 52 weeks for the 11 weeks that are from the end of August until the first week of November because I love high school football.
Yeah.
And with A&M's 11 o'clock game next week against Ole Miss, I'm going to miss a third Friday. So I'm going to miss 3 of the 11. So I'm kind of bummed about that, but I'll get over it. But.
Yeah. Well, yesterday Jimbo had his presser. I feel like he looked relaxed-ish. Am I wrong? Did you see it the same way?
I saw it too. I felt like he came in and just was like, all right, had his statement ready to go because we didn't hear from them the week before. And so had a lot of things to update people on. But I felt like the question here, or his word is execution. You got to execute a lot, and so who knows how much can get fixed. But it seems like he kept going back to the word execution. So I thought he seemed relaxed. Was smiling. I know after the post game after Tennessee, wasn't great. So it was nice to see him a little more relaxed.
He looked very unshaven and relaxed.
Yeah.
Is what I noticed. And I'm good with that. It was a bye week. Nicole talked about entering that bye week. You don't want to on a 2-game losing streak, but with the way this team lost their last 2 and the way they even played in the second half against Arkansas, I kind of think going into the bye on a 2-game losing streak is a good thing, just because you get slapped upside the head like, hey, we have got to figure this out. And you're right, they do fall on this word execution all the time. Okay, you have to execute. When are we going to see the fix to the execution? Everybody says, we got to execute better. We got to execute better. We got to execute better. Okay, let's do it. If you did your job and you didn't execute better,
I'd be gone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Same thing with me, same thing with Nicole. But, it seems to be an excuse that they can continue to use, and they have wore it out. Fix it.
Well, let me follow that up with this, Daryl. How much of this season to you is predictable? Because leading into the season, I was like, to me, it depends on the offensive line. Well, I still feel that way. Like, as the offensive line goes, the offense goes. So how much of it, in your opinion, was predictable, what we've seen this year?
I'm in agreement with you. The offensive line, we all looked at and said, that's the weakest link. And if the offensive line is much improved, and we were hoping it would be, we thought the football team would be much improved. I had a good friend, Dwayne Parsons, always told me, man, and unfortunately I've said it here, it's all about the jug butts, man. It's all, and coaches will tell you, it's all about the line. Defensive line, that has played very well this year.
Yeah.
Offensive line, not so much. And, here we are.
Nicole, anything predictable to you?
I think it's more so you knew the offensive line last year didn't perform to the standard that you would have liked. So, you'd have the whole offseason to work on that and be like, okay, they have Layden back and they have Bryce Foster back and they have, I think they're really missing Ruben right now. Father, just because he's such a presence in there, and Basantis is just kind of, I heard someone say baptism by fire. He is just in there. And so I think what's frustrating about the offensive line woes is that we saw it last year. And so what's frustrating is when you hear execute. We just, it's not changes we need to make. We just need to execute. Well, it's a pattern you're starting to see. And so that's what I think is frustrating. And so I don't know if it was predictable, but when you see something, it's not surprising because you saw it last year.
Right. And I think people would have probably been like, I could see
Well said, Nicole.
Yeah, that was very well.
Thank you, guys.
I could see a scenario where we would all said, yeah, because we all talked about it. The Tennessee and Alabama games, those were the games. It's those 2 games plus the Miami game. And now you're thinking, well, this team hasn't won on the road since whenever, right?
Missouri 2021.
Were you there?
No, but I looked it up.
Okay.
And now I know.
Right.
So now we always reference it.
Yeah. That's why here's a question before we hit a break. How important is this South Carolina game? Not only for what we know is important, but just to feel differently going on the road, just to come away. If they can have a game like they had against Auburn, a game like they had against Arkansas, against South Carolina, a team that you should be able to do that to, what that can mean going on the road.
Oh, they need momentum going into Oxford because, it's a fan base and a head coach that doesn't like A&M, that doesn't like Jimbo Fisher. And it's very, any chance Kiffin gets, he makes points about it. So you need momentum going into that game because you haven't won on the road. And what makes you think you're going to do it at Ole Miss?
I would agree, but I don't know if they win. Well, if they win 100-0, then it makes me feel a little bit better. But, with the way that they have played this year, I expect them to win. But that's not going to make me feel better. I expected them to beat Auburn. I expected them to beat Arkansas.
And Bama.
I was anticipating them to beat Alabama. And had they beat Alabama, I'd have felt better. But, with the way that they have played in the second half, I don't feel good at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like the doubting Thomas. And normally I'm the guy that's drinking all the Kool-Aid.
Right. All right.
So, I hope.
We all can hope. All right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. I'm going to ask you some areas of the team that you're actually happy with. And I think we've already listed one of those, the defensive line. We'll get into that and more. It's TexAgs Radio. And we are back. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The KBTX Roundtable, Daryl and Nicole are still with us. All right, so I teased it last segment. What is an area? Give me a couple areas. Everyone's going to say the defensive line. Maybe a player, maybe different things.
I wasn't.
Okay, well then what's an area that you're happy with?
I feel like I'll just take the other low-hanging fruit and pick the linebacker.
Okay, that's fine.
So I just feel like Edgerrin Cooper's playing so well right now. I know that he was asked about, or Jimbo was asked about why he's playing so much better, and he just goes, his eyes. He's just seeing it. And so I feel like, sacks become sacks, tackles become tackles. And so once he gets a couple, and the whole team can feed off of it. And I think it's nice that Torian and Bryce and younger players can see that.
Sure.
Because, with the 4-3 record no one's happy about, but you have to play 5 more games, season's not done. They are laying that foundation. And so, I feel like it's low-hanging fruit, but I'll take the linebackers.
Okay, linebackers. If you have to, you want to say defensive line, you can.
No, I would say that I had that on here, and I also had the linebackers. I'm going to say when they get the ball, the wide receivers.
I'm going to get it to Anias and Evan. And yes.
Anias Smith is by far the guy that I really look up to more than any other player on that team, just because of what he went through last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can remember talking to whatever road game it was, and he's sitting there with his foot all, bandaged up in a cast or whatever, and he said, hey, this is just a bump in the road, and look what he did when he got an opportunity to get back. So I love Anias. I think all those receivers, if they can get the football, they can make some things happen.
Yeah, feed those studs like we were told, right? Just give them the ball, give them some opportunities. Special teams, been a little bit of an issue this year. Punting hasn't been great. Missed some field goals. I know some of them are hard when they're 45 yards plus, but I'd like to see some better play from the special teams.
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't help when you're getting your field goals blocked and then returned and then almost a touchdown and then called back. And so that swings momentum, but it also is falling on, I would say, on short yardage.
Mm-hmm.
The offense isn't able to convert on those short yardage, so then that forces the special teams unit to come out. So, and then it's like, okay, well, we couldn't convert on 3-and-1, so you have to pin this ball here, which that's what they're supposed to do. So I feel like you asked about what's correctable. I feel like special teams is correctable. It also is hard because who's the coach, who's helping them. Is it just something that's like, all right, yeah, fix. Here's a.
They all take a role in helping.
But that's.
They aren't the only team that does that, but I understand your point that you don't
when
have
it's a
guy,
problem.
When it's a problem, who's the guy who's going to be working on it day and night, trying to figure it out? Absolutely.
I can remember the Tennessee game, and I hate to say this because Nick knows he's got to do it, but when you got to punt from the back line and the ball's at the 1, all you want to do is get it out of the end zone. You just do not want to get that. Your goal is to not get it blocked.
Yeah.
But I'm shooting that play, and I hear some Tennessee fan goes, "Man, we're gonna take this to the house." And lo and behold, there it goes. And I went, "Oh man, there went all the air out of our balloon."
Yep.
That was a backbreaker.
You hold them to a field goal there because they're going to get great field position. It just changes the way you play the game. It changes the way you feel, everything about it. If you can hold them there just to 3 points, or maybe even get a sack, which we know they can do, and get them out of field goal range, it's different. But that wasn't the case.
Yeah, and you see that a lot when they punt. You got a short field. You would think that it would be more difficult to return that for a touchdown because it's a more compact area. But I've seen more people return punts for touchdowns in short yardage, on a short field than a long field.
All right, let's get into our takeaways. I know they didn't play this week, but we can be doing long thought, where we can go. Do you have any takeaways for us?
I think Anias needs to feed the studs. Anias needs to get the ball more. He's coming off the Tennessee performance where he had 1 catch for 20 yards.
Get on the ball.
That's not enough. And so the wide receivers, specifically, Anias needs to be a target. I am blanking on what my other 2 were.
So let me do my 3, and you come back with your next 2.
I wrote them down, but I was so.
They can't turn the ball over. this team does not have an explosive enough offense to be able to turn the ball over and then get points. My other thing is they have got to build on the momentum. If they get a turnover, they need to score. They can't give the ball right back to them.
Right.
And then accountability. I know I sound like a broken record, but we got to execute more. We got to execute more. We got to execute more. Well, then freaking execute more.
Get it done.
Do your job. Do your job. That's all anybody's asking anybody to do.
Yeah.
And then if somebody's not playing well, I don't have a problem with calling them out. If I make a mistake, I guarantee you, Nicole and Morgan and Ty go, hey, Daryl, man, you kind of missed the ball on that. And I'm okay with that because that shows ownership. But when you say, hey, Daryl's a good person, he did his job well.
So, you know what? When they need to be fixed, fix it and tell them they got to get fixed. You figure out yours?
I don't remember exactly, but I will go with Max playing well to the ability that he has. He needs more time. The offensive line, give him a few more seconds, but he also has to get rid of the ball quicker.
Yeah.
So it's like a double-edged sword there. And then feed the studs, offensive line, give Max a little more time, and then just the defensive line. Hopefully that after while they're all banged up, hopefully they're okay coming in.
Cool, Daryl. Thank you so much.
You bet.
When we come back, we're going to talk to Jordan Pugh, keeping it real here on TexAgs Radio. All right, it's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in this morning. Having a good old time here trying to figure out all the good and bad going on with Aggie football. Let's go to the hotline. We're keeping it real with Jordan Pugh. Jordan, good morning, buddy.
Hey, how you doing? How's everything going?
Good, man. Good. Like, I've told you this a couple times this year, but I feel like you've been, I don't want to say happier. You're always a happy guy, right? Like, you're a happy dude. But there was more, I think, more anger last year. And I feel maybe this year more disappointment, but you kind of get it. Maybe am I saying that wrong? Like, tell me where you are.
I wouldn't necessarily say anger. I would say frustration last year. You know what I mean? Because I just thought a lot of the moves that we made last year, they didn't make a lot of sense. You're dealing with a young team, but I don't think, as far as last year's concerned, I don't think that we were putting our young players in a lot of positions to be successful. So that was where a lot of the frustration came in. This year is more so. Look, man, you have a group of guys that grew up. You had a group of guys that had trial by fire. A group of guys that have experienced the SEC at home, on the road, all the ups and downs. So you're looking at a group of guys who should grow. You know what I mean? Also, you're looking at the additions of Petrino running the offense. The defense taking another step under Durkin. I just think that everything was primed. And then you're looking at a down SEC as well, as far as competition is concerned, as far as the Alabamas of the world trying to figure it out, the LSUs of the world. I told you at the beginning of the season, I was never a believer in LSU, trying to figure that out. Man, it was wide open. So you're looking at the prime opportunity this season in order to take over the SEC West, get to that SEC title game, and whatnot. So that's where the optimism came in. That's where the excitement came in. You know what I mean? Now it's kind of, I'm leaning more towards the disappointment if we don't get things turned around. But I still love the team, still like the team. Still think we have everything that we need in order to finish strong. It's just, hey, do it. It's just that simple.
Figure out a way to do it. All right, so do you think, from what you've seen over the last 3 years, 6 years, whatever you want to call it?
Oh, no. Okay, let's do it.
Do you think they can fix it?
Okay, well, you got to define fix. I mean, that means...
Well, how about this? What are 3 areas that they have to fix this year, and are those 3 areas fixable?
Yes. Okay. Yes, every area is fixable. They got to fix the offensive line, number one. Okay, I think we've lacked in that as the season has progressed. I think the bye week came at the right time for the offensive line troubles. Second thing that we need to fix is the secondary. Secondary has played well in spots, but overall we've been too inconsistent. We've given up too many explosive plays. I think that's very fixable because we have the front line. We have the ability to get the pressure on the quarterback and create misfires. Create early releases, sacks, all that. Okay, that's been proven. Also, the number one, or the other thing that we need to fix is just the consistency. I think that we're very good at times, we're very average at times, and I think if we can just be consistent with what we do, I think a lot of things can turn over. Those are the 3. Those are very fixable things that we could do. I know one of the things is this. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to hop on before my segment here, but I hear the word execute all the time. Okay, and General talks about execution, and at some point you just need to just do it. I think like the theme of this week, the rest of the season is just do it and get it done. And you talk about the execution part. All of those things that I just mentioned as far as what can be fixed. Those are easily fixable because those are something that you can change in an instant. So I just think, man, if they get in there, they do what they need to do, they handle the business, everybody does their job well. I think you'll see a change in the team, and it'll lead to more success with those 3 things.
We're watching the Cleveland Browns win games because of their defense and what Myles Garrett's able to do, and that can this defense lead them to wins on the road this year, and also, finish out the season the way we kind of expected them to play all year long?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. But look, at the end of the day, you got to score points. So you have the expression that defense wins championships, which is very true. I'm a defensive guy. I will always and forever be a defensive guy. That's just what it is. But at the end of the day, the way that they have changed the rule set, the way that they have made everything so favorable for the offense, you got to be able to score points. Okay. Our defense has played well enough to win every single game this year. Okay. Between the pressures on the quarterback, the sacks, the turnovers that we've created, short fields that we've given our offense, we have just not taken advantage of that offensively. Even our special teams has made big time plays, but the inconsistency on offense is the frustrating part. We should be scoring more points. We should be having more explosive plays with the type of players that we have, the arsenal of receivers we have, the three-headed monster, the running back that we have. We should be more consistent in those type of areas. So I just think, man, defensively, we have everything that we need in order to finish out the stretch run and win these games. But we got to be able to have the combination offensively, a full team effort all around, man, in order to close things out.
Jordan, let's say you were talking to Max Johnson, right? And what would you tell him? Like, what would be your coaching to Max, understanding the O-line has had some issues, but also understanding he's held the ball a little bit too long?
It's going to sound crazy, but I would tell him to stop listening to the coach. That's what I would tell him. Sometimes players get so wrapped up in, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. It's almost robotic. Okay. What I see with Max, I see him, when I sat back and I thought about it, I see him being, it's like a paralysis by analysis kind of situation with him. Man, play free. The one thing you saw with Connor, I think you saw a kid that played free. No matter what happened, the good, the bad, the up, the down. He's like, man, I'm out here, I'm running the show. It's me. With Max, I think that you had a guy who the past 2 years has been in a QB battle. Okay. He's come in and he's filled in for an injured quarterback. And I think you're dealing with a kid who's doing everything he can to prove that he's the guy, because he hasn't been the guy the past 2 years. If we really break this thing down, he hasn't been the guy the past 2 years. And he's trying his best to make the play. He's trying his best to create excitement, trust, all that. And I think in the back of his mind, if you ask him and you put him on a lie detector test, man, I think he still feels like it's not his team. I think he still feels like it's not his offense. I think he still feels like he can't be himself, because you can see it by the way that he plays. There's so many situations from a football player perspective. You're watching, you're like, dude, just go. Let it rip. Run. Whatever. Right? That's what I would tell him. I would say, hey, man, sometimes you got to ignore the coach and you got to ball, because at the end of the day, you control the play. You touch the ball every single play. You're out on the field. Guys are trying to tackle you. They ain't trying to tackle the coach. Trust yourself. Trust yourself to go make plays.
All right. So would the advice to Jimbo then be similar? Like, don't meddle? Or like, what would you tell Jimbo? What would be your advice to Jimbo and the entire staff?
I would tell Jimbo to stop being – ooh, okay. Let me. I was about to say something, but I forgot we're on the radio waves. I would tell Jimbo, man, be aggressive and go win the game. When I watch Jimbo coach, especially the last 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, if you want to throw that in there, I saw him coach not to lose. I saw him not be aggressive. I saw him not take command. I saw him not take control, and I saw him coach as if he didn't have the personnel in order to go out and dominate games. I go back to the Alabama, go back to the Tennessee game right before halftime. That told me a lot in those two situations. It's like at some point you gotta trust your players enough in order to go out and take a chokehold over the game. You have to. And so I would tell him, man, listen, you got the horses. You have recruited at a phenomenal level. It's time to show off your presence now. It's time to show off your toys a little bit more. And I think if he plays more, or if he coaches more aggressive and coaches to win these games, I think you'll see a difference too.
I want to follow that up because I 100% agree with you, but I also in those moments didn't have a problem with going into the half. And I don't want to get into that, but I do want to get into what you just said. Like, why don't you have the faith? I guess is maybe because if you do got the guys, then maybe you don't have the faith in the philosophy. Maybe you don't have the faith that you can get it done because of the other team. Well, then you need to be the proactive team. You need to find a way to be the team that strikes first.
Yes. That's interesting. All right, you just made me think of something. So the same thing I told Max is just play. Sometimes you got to ignore the coach. As much as coaches say they don't listen to the outside noise, that's a lie. Yes, they do, because you're human. You hear it. Your kids may go to school. They hear it. They bring it home to you. Your wife may hear it. All this other type of stuff. Jimbo, for lack of a better word, whether he wanted to or not, they had to bring Petrino in. So then you start to question the offense. You look at the games last year where there was a lot of just stalled out drives. There wasn't a lot of points being scored. You look at this year where, you've had your moments where the offense has excelled. But then, you see things kind of stall out. You're not scoring a lot of points in the second half of these games. You start to question, like, man, is my philosophy, does it still work? You start to question that sometimes as well, and that can fall down to your team too. You know what I mean? I just believe that if you really believe that your offense is dominant, if you really believe that you have the players that you think that you do, the horses in the stable, you would be more aggressive because you know that my guys are better than your guys. It boils down to that. Football is not a very hard game. I think sometimes we make football more difficult than what it needs to be. Offense will do two things. They're going to run it or they're going to throw it. That's it. They will try and manipulate your eyes a lot, but it's my will against yours. I just think that sometimes there could be a confidence issue with something that's been so successful for so long, and all of a sudden you start to see it dwindle. And I think that could be a confidence play for the coaches as well.
I thought heading into the Tennessee game, that game could be a tipping point to tell you what kind of direction the season goes. 10-2 or spiral out, the wrong way. Now, South Carolina's coming here. To me, it has to be a beatdown. Like, that's what it feels like to me, just to kind of change the way it feels. But a win's a win. So tell me how you feel about that whole scenario.
To me, this is the tipping point. This is the tipping point to me, because if you went out, what's our record? 4-3. What is that? And then make you 9-3. You went out 10-3, whatever it is. All right, so you went out, cool. But I think this is the tipping point. This is a game that you should win. This is a game that you should dominate. Let's just be real. Like, it should happen. All right. You're coming off let's say two good opponents, two opponents that were rolling. You're coming off a bye week as well. Did we make the necessary changes? And do we have the necessary mindset in order to finish the task? This week will tell you a lot more than the previous 2 weeks. Where are we at mentally? Okay. And what adjustments did we make offensively and defensively? This to me is the tipping point of the season, and it's going to show us where we're going as the season finishes.
So if they have a dominant performance, it gives you a little optimism heading to Ole Miss?
Yes, it does, because you had an opportunity to reset. You want to see how people come back off of a reset. Sometimes you just need that reset. Sometimes you need a break. You need to get away from it, and you have time to sit back and look at who you are without the pressure of putting a game plan together. I just think that with this week coming up, you're going up against a quarterback who can sling it. You're going up against a South Carolina team who you've had some problems with in the past. How do we handle this? How do we handle the 2 losses? How do we handle the bye week? You got 3 weeks basically of the sky falling in the A&M world, right? How do you combo that? I think this will tell a lot about the maturity of the team and where we are as far as the season, how we can progress moving forward.
All right, so Spencer Rattler can sling it a little bit, but he's been sacked 30 times this year. Talk to me about that Aggie defense and what they can do.
You should have a field day. You should get your fork and your knife and your spoon ready, because you're getting ready to eat a lot if you're on that defensive line. Look, the defense has had its issues, but it hasn't been the problem. The defense has been thriving, especially our front seven. I mean, our front seven has been going crazy this year. You look at the matchup and the opportunities moving forward against South Carolina. I think, man, this is an opportunity to really dominate on defense. An opportunity to take control of the game, because there's been a lot of inconsistencies with South Carolina. You know that they can be explosive at times, but, man, there's no reason we shouldn't affect the game from the first series to the last series defensively with what they've shown all season long. So this should be a matchup where the D-line, especially our D-line with really front seven, should be really excited about what the opportunity or the opportunity that presents itself.
What worries you, concerns you about Rattler?
When he gets hot. I think he's one of the best front-running quarterbacks in the country, because when it's rolling, it's rolling. And that's what worries you, is you got to make sure from the beginning that he's rattled. You know what I mean, for lack of a better word, right? That he's rattled from the jump. You don't let him get on rhythm. You don't let him get a flow going, because once he gets it going, man, he's one of the best in the country. He finds that zone and he can make every throw. He has a big arm. He's accurate. He has everything that you want, but you got to get him off rhythm early.
Yeah, he's the guy that I think you should be able to neutralize him, especially at home, and what this defense has been able to do. How many points can this offense score, you think, on Carolina? Can we see a game where it's 4 quarters of scoring?
I hate these questions, man.
I know. I like.
We can score 50 points. All right, so let's make that very clear. We can score 50 points. It's will we do it? Okay, in the lack of a better term, execution that Jimbo likes to use all the time. All right. I think that if they went back into the bye week, they self-assessed in the bye week. I think that we weren't using Max to the best of his abilities or to his strength. I think that a lot of the plays that we had offensively were too long developing. It didn't give him a check down. It didn't allow him to find that check down guy whenever the routes deeper were taken away. I just think that if we did the self-assessment correctly, we looked at Max for what he is, and we allow him to use his skill set, we should be able to put up 50 points. We have the pieces. It's not like we don't have that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
All right, so you best case we've all figured out 9-3 regular season, hopefully a bowl win. That's the best case.
Yep. Yes.
What is keeping it real case? Like what do you think as of today is going to happen?
7-5.
I know.
If you say keep 75. If you ask me, do we beat Ole Miss? No. If you ask me, based on what I've seen so far this year and in the last 2 to 3 weeks, what I've seen, I don't think we beat Ole Miss because I don't think we can match them point for point for what we've shown so far. If you ask me, do we beat LSU? No, because the one thing LSU can do is they can score points. The one thing our offense has shown is that we can score points in the first half. We can't score points in the second half. So we can beat South Carolina, Abilene Christian, and who else do we have with Mississippi State? We can beat them, okay? Or we should definitely beat them. But those other two games, the Ole Miss and the LSU game, that scares me because I don't know if we have made those changes offensively. That's what scares me.
But if they have made those offensive, okay, if they're a little better offensively, all right, hear me out here. If they're a little better offensively, do you think Ole Miss is as good as Tennessee?
I think, they
got a better quarterback.
They definitely have a better quarterback. I think that they're more explosive. I don't know if they're a better overall team, though. I'll give you that. As far as a team, I don't know if they're a better overall team. So, no, I'll say a no on that.
So, you fix the offense somewhat. I mean, I'm not expecting 50 points. Like, I know they can. Like, they got the talent. But you fix the offense somewhat. That defense, can they keep – you look at Arkansas, I think, gave up 27 points to Ole Miss. Like, teams that are worse than you have kept games close with Ole Miss. I think worse than you.
Yeah.
You beat Arkansas's butt. Absolutely. They've lost 6 straight. So, can an offense that is – what we saw roughly in the first half against Tennessee, can that team go to Ole Miss and win?
Yes, we can definitely go to Ole Miss and win. The problem is can we take what we do in the first half and translate that over to a second half and have a complete game? Our defense is going to give us opportunities to win. Okay, our defense is going to do that. Our defense kept Tennessee 20 points, whatever the score was. 20 points. They kept Alabama 24 points, whatever it was. Right, the defense is going to keep you in games. The problem is that when you don't sustain drives, when you don't get points, you're asking a lot of the defense to be perfect. You're asking them to be perfect every single series, and that's demoralizing to a defense when you get off the field to turn around and go right back on the field when there's no sustained drive, no points coming out of it. So, can we go down and win? Yes, we can win every single game. But we have got to consistently put drives together offensively and get points. Let me take that back. Get touchdowns, especially when we have the opportunity to do that.
Jordan, I'm just going to fill you in a little bit. Yeah, they scored 20 points, but the defense only gave up 13 against Tennessee. So the defense was pretty darn good.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's my point. That's my point. They gave up 13 and we still lost.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's what I'm saying. That's why the Ole Miss game scares me because Lane Kiffin's gonna dial something up because the beat between him and Jimbo, whatever, man. That just is what it is. LSU is explosive offensively, but I think LSU is just too inconsistent. But man, you just don't know. We just got to be able to do that, man. We have everything that we need. We have all the pieces in place. We got to put it together, and we just got to be consistent when we do that.
Jordan, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
We'll see you next week. Jordan Pugh, keeping it real here on TexAgs Radio. All right, we're gonna hit a little break. When we come back, just a little open segment. We'll hear some from Jimbo. Get your thoughts on the text line, 979-693-1150. Right now, it is all Aggie Hullabaloo time. It's game week, and if you're headed to the game Saturday, the Association of Former Students wants to invite you to join them at the All Aggie Hullabaloo. Make the Clayton W. Williams Jr. Alumni Center your game day headquarters this weekend and enjoy free coffee from Go Coffee Company and free drinks courtesy of Kristen Distributing, and as well as food for purchase from Raging Bull Street Tacos and Pop Pop's Dandy Dog. You can also get some pregame shopping at the vendor marketplace with the Beaded Blondes, the Charge Apparel, Kendra Scott, Game Day Boots, all while listening to music from DJ Rob. Plus, if you got any questions about your Aggie ring or you need to have it resized, the Aggie Ring Office will be open throughout the event. The All Aggie Hullabaloo starts at 9 a.m. this week, and admission is absolutely free. Don't miss out on this great event, and don't forget to register to claim your wristband at tx.ag/All Aggie Hullabaloo. It was a theme during the summer. It's been a theme this season, talking about blocking on the offensive line, development on the line, changes, blocking in general, from running backs to tight ends, you name it. I did ask yesterday, Jimbo, a question about protection, and I want to hear from him because sometimes when he answers questions, like he really gives you a little bit of the coaching insight that I'm looking for. At the end of the day, we just want results, and I don't care how it gets done. But here's Jimbo yesterday breaking down the protection issues that A&M's had and how to fix it.
There's 3 parts of protection. You got to protect the passer. You got to read it and get it out, and you got to run the route and be at the right place. So, I mean, at different times are different things. I mean, sometimes some guys get beat, and in the last 2 weeks, we faced some really good pass rushers. I mean, the last 2 weeks, there's 3 or 4 ends that are going to make a lot of money, and interior guys that can really rush and do a good job. So you're playing good people. Stay ahead of the down and distance, too. When we're doing that, we're doing a really good job in what we're doing. So we just it's been varying things at times, but it's sometimes you got to get the ball out, sometimes you got to get open the hair quicker, and sometimes you got to protect longer. So it's been all 3 at different, and it's been really good at times. I mean, up and down the field.
All 3, to me, is where there needs to be, like, if there's one issue that needs to be identified, then you fix that issue. But there's multiple, like, guys got to get open, got to do this, got to do that. Then guys, let's fix it. Let's get to the bottom line and fix it. And I'm hoping, and I think Luke's got a stat for us here after losses, how Jimbo has done. Luke, what was the number you had for us?
Yeah, Texas A&M is 12-8 after a loss under Jimbo Fisher. They're 8-3 at home in those games.
Okay, so 8-3 after a loss, regardless of where that loss was.
8-3 at home. Like, if the game after a loss is at home, they're 8-3.
Okay, not that both games are at home. I see.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, look, they did fix issues after the Miami game. Yes, lesser opponent. But then you saw a little bit of a different team. From Bama to Tennessee, unfortunately, those games were different but felt so much the same because of the offensive issues there. In the Tennessee game, you only had that one really first drive. That was it, right? That you really felt good about moving the ball. Move the ball. Block. I hate to make it sound so simple, but move the ball and block. It is that simple. As for the morale of the team, I think it's an important thing to understand because what we see on Saturday is going to tell us how focused and how fixable this year is. So I did ask Jimbo yesterday about how he senses this team as years past.
Like I said last year, I never thought we lost it. This year, these guys have been wonderful. The practices, the energy, the responses back, leadership council. I mean, those guys taking active roles in things. I would say, yes, probably even a greater leadership group here, stronger, still have great vision for what the season can be. We got to play 5 games coming down, but we got to do them one at a time, and it can still have a great year.
Yeah. I've said this on this show many times. If I'm building a team, you got to have a mix, right? And I think this team does have a mix. But I really, there's certain areas I want experience, right? I want my trenches to be all about experience. I can play a younger quarterback who's got it, right? But there are positions out there you can have it that you've got to learn, and you really got to learn. So that's why leadership goes a long, long way. And I would want players that have had multiple games. And look, they did as well as they could in the transfer portal when they got DeBerry and Grimes. Guys had played a lot of football. We haven't seen Grimes, but we have seen DeBerry. It is important to have experience, but I think it's important to have SEC experience. It's important just to have experience, be an older guy who's been down that road before. Luke, if you're building a team, building it with young players, older players, or combo?
Combo. I'm building it with a group of players who can work well with each other, some that have been there before and some that are learning how to be there.
You know what I like, and this is like the third time I brought it up, and it's going to be our next guest because it's going to be a little bit about Aggie basketball. But the way Buzz has built that basketball team, that is a core group of players that have played together for a few years, right? And then they sprinkle in a player or two that's young that hasn't. Like, look how Solo kind of came along, or Manny a couple of years ago. Like, young players that don't have to be the guy, but when they're the guy, it really shines because of the players around them. Different sport, different amount of guys on the field to the court. I get all that. But the philosophy behind it, by building a strong unit with veteran-type players, to me, can be the difference. No doubt about that. Luke, any final thoughts on that?
You could argue that you're seeing that with Aggie baseball as well. Last year with Max Coffer and Jace Lavalette playing a lot, and then this year, Gavin Grahovic. You still have that core group, a lot of young guys really coming in and making their impact felt.
Yep, exactly right. Set a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Aggie basketball because why not? I want to feel happy about things. That's what we're doing here on TexAgs Radio. But before we do any of that, we're going to talk about Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. It's about the deals, the experience. The website has got it all, too. You go there, you check out what vehicles that they have on the lot, and you can kind of get a sense for it. So if you're not really in the area, but you're looking for a car, you can start your search there. But if you are in the area, I highly suggest you make the drive out there and check it out because they're going to get you a great price. That's, to me, at the end of the day, like you have a certain car. Most of us think, I want this kind of car. Well, all right, so you know what kind of car you want. Now we're talking about pricing, and we're talking about the customer service. And if you're not thinking customer service is a big deal, go buy something from a lot that doesn't give you the best customer service. You find out later this place gave you a better price, or find out later that this car has got this issue and you can't take it in. You want a place that's going to work with you, give you a great price point, and also give you a great trade value. And that's what they do there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. And it's not a far drive, guys. We're talking about 15 minutes, the very edge of Bryan to the very edge or the beginning of Caldwell. 15 minutes away, you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. All right, Aggie Hoops going to be playing in Denton on Sunday. Is that right, Tom?
Correct.
Tom Schubert here in studio. Talk a little Aggie basketball. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, David. Thank you.
You went to practice this morning at 6 a.m.?
6:15.
6:15, okay.
Yeah. And when people hear that 6:15, they think that's early, and it is. But in reality, it really starts around 4:30 for some of the guys.
Because they got to get taped up,
right?
And all that, right?
Get treatment, taped up. The managers have to be there and have the court set up. So it's really an early morning for them. And I jokingly asked several of them, do they really enjoy it? And not one person said yes. Some of them said they're used to it, and that's a good thing. But I know as a coach and as a player, I never liked early morning practices. The good news is you have the rest of the day to get some things done. But the bad news is it kind of messes up your schedule.
So they just do that? Do they get back together later, or how does that work?
I think depending on how many hours, they're allowed to have 20 hours a week where they can officially work with the guys. So depending on where they are in that schedule. I know, as you said, they have a game on Sunday. Of course, it'll start a new week. So that's they got to take a day off, actually 2 days off during the preseason, once the season starts, which I guess officially it did October 15th. So now they can take 1 day off and 20 hours a week working with the guys.
So you mentioned to me that they, off air, that they looked really good at practice. And my response to you was like, can they look bad? And you had an interesting response. It's 6 a.m. They're ready to roll.
Sure, they were. I see, I've been watching the team since I moved here 6 years ago. And to me, this is the best team I've seen. Just complete attitude. Their defense is going to be strong again. I think it's even stronger because they have more bodies. I also know that, when you have people that are very similar to you in talent and you have an off day, you can maybe lose some minutes or even lose a lot of playing time. You're going to bring it every day, and they do anyway in Buzz's system, and they're win by committee. There's 3 words in there on their gym that are big. One is love, one is trust, and one is work. And they don't just have those words up there. I think they live by it. And the guys have a great attitude. Their character's off the charts. And that's what I think Coach Williams is trying to do, bring high character, talented players in here. And it's showing up on the practice court as well.
One of the things we were talking about from a football perspective was returning production. This team returns 88% of that production from last year. In basketball, I feel like it's a big deal, especially college basketball, I should say, when you get into the tournament.
I think so. And I think being in a tournament, even though we didn't have a lot of success, we had a bad outing. And I think, Penn State had a lot to do with that. But I think it made these guys hungrier. And, their attitude, I think, from what I can gather, is about winning. They're not worried about individual stats. Nowadays you can average very few points and still play in the NBA. So I think these guys want to win a championship. And obviously the other goal is to get in the NCAA tournament. Championships are fun because you get a ring, you get to publicize it for the rest of your life. But getting in that tournament, anything can happen. And, we talked about it. There's going to be another sleeper team, maybe 2, maybe 3,
right,
that'll make the NCAA Final Four this year.
Nick, can you pull up their schedule? Because I look at their non-conference, Tom, and I'm like, last year was a tough non-conference, not because the teams were necessarily all that good. Some of them were, but they struggled. You look at this one, at Ohio State, at SMU. Then you got Oral Roberts. Then you're going to see Penn State again, FAU or Butler, like Virginia on the road, like Houston, in Houston at Toyota Center. Like, that could be humbling, and it can also be an opportunity.
Right. I think so. I think it's going to prepare them. I don't think this team's going to slip up. I really don't. And that's a kind of a bold statement because, you don't want to, just because we had a good year last year, say, we're going to be great. But I just love their attitude and their depth. And, again, Coach Williams, kind of the way he is about being so businesslike. These guys are committed to trying to win. I don't think they're worried about winning every game. It's not like we're going to go undefeated. They just want to get better and better and play their best basketball at the end of the year. And, of course, the NCAA selection committee, they love seeing a schedule like that non-conference. You didn't even mention Memphis on the 10th and Reed Arena. So it's some great games. I'm looking forward to, watching Ohio State early. They're supposed to be good this year. They had a bad year last year, but they have an excellent coach. And then going to SMU. It's a challenging schedule for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. We're talking to Tom Schubert here in studio as we break down Aggie basketball before the season starts. So offensively, we know what Wade Taylor brings to the table. We know what Boots brings to the table. Wade, obviously getting SEC Player of the Year accolades, preseason Player of the Year accolades. What about scoring, though, elsewhere? Because you're pretty high on some of the guys they brought in.
I am. I talk to the coaches, and I don't want to be one of those guys that gives out information, and, maybe it hurts another guy's feelings. But I know they've been very impressed with Jace Carter, the young man from Illinois, Chicago, that's a Florida native. He was the leading scorer at Illinois, Chicago. He's got great size. I mean, I think if you were to pick a guy right now to take Dexter's place, Dexter Dennis from last year, it would be Jace. But that can all change. And
he can play defense too?
He can. Well, okay. The one thing I love about these new guys that I've observed and then listening to the coaching staff is that these guys, they recruit schools like we recruit players. They know you're going to play defense if you come to Texas A&M. It isn't a cakewalk, and if they're not used to hard work, they're not going to come here. So they already did their character checks on them, and then the players obviously knew what Coach Williams is about, defense first, and then hopefully we get a great offensive chemistry, and I think Jace Carter will be one of those guys that can do it. He looked very good this morning, but they all did. It was a good morning. They were in there energetic, and I think they're looking forward to Sunday. They've already had a scrimmage against Baylor, and I heard that went well. So I think they're excited about playing some other teams, other people other than themselves in practice.
What about Wade, though? Because I think a year ago today, had you told me next year he's going to be the preseason player, I don't know if I would have believed it, right? And I loved his game from his freshman year and beyond. I've always loved his game. But where can he take his game? Are we talking about like a 20-point-a-game score?
I think so. I think there's going to be some games when he goes off for more than that, and then there's going to be games where he's going to defer the ball and people are going to maybe try to take him out of his rhythm, so he may not score as much. But I think what they're concerned about, the players, is they want to win, and they want to win from the start. If you remember last year after we lost to Walford at home, I mean, we were questioning, is this team going to, even
make the tournament?
Correct. Yeah. And and then they had that big, in my opinion, when I was watching that big road win against Florida, the first SEC game, when they went on the road, not knowing how good we were, and they won it, and then they kind of just took off from there. And again, I think the SEC's, I don't know if it's going to be any better than last year, but it'll be more balanced for sure. I don't think there's a weak link in the whole conference. Where last year, South Carolina struggled at times. I wasn't that impressed with Vanderbilt. Everybody thought they were pretty good. I thought they had some chemistry issues, but I think every team can come out with a strong performance on a given day and win games in the SEC.
My thing about Wade, beyond how special of a playmaker he can be and is his ability to draw the foul and his ability to hit those. He was 88% from the free throw line, something like that.
Absolutely. It's funny, David, you mentioned that. We were talking this morning, Coach Rockefeller and I were talking about Wade, what a great shooter he is. But he has the ability to kind of create space and then get that soft, floater up off he uses the backboard very well. Just what you said. He's phenomenal at that. And that's something that's almost you're born with. That's a hard craft to, pick up if you don't already know how to do it. And he's really special at that, and he's a great scorer. So I think he's going to do some wonderful things for sure.
From a coaching perspective, I was reading Hop's story on the Aggies, and he mentioned the NCAA's rule change on a defender having to plant his foot on the floor before the offensive player makes their jump. How does that change A&M? Because they flourish in that world where they slide in and draw the charge. Is that going to affect their defense in some way?
I think a little bit. They're a defensive-minded team, so it's going to hurt them a little, but they're still going to play with that tenacity. I kind of like to reward the defense, to be honest. My biggest pet peeve, and not that I'm anybody, but it's just to give the ball to an offensive player, have him put his head down and drive to the basket. In a lot of conferences and even at the college level, you can get away with that and probably get fouled. That to me is not a skill. That's just kind of bullying and trying to get to the – so I would rather reward a defense. And that's what A&M, thrives on. They try to cut the angles to the basket. They don't call them straight line drives. You want to eliminate all straight line drives where they have to veer, and then that's where we're so good in helping and rotation. And that's one of the things they worked on so much today is defensive rotation. And it's no secret. I mean, a team that comes in, they know, and I think you and I talked about this off the air. If you're going to beat Texas A&M, particularly in Reed Arena, you better reverse the ball 2 or 3 times. If you come down, pass it once, and shoot it, you play right in their hands, even if you make it, because the chances of you doing that consistently for 40 minutes is not going to happen. So when I watch those games and I see a team come down, maybe hit 2 or 3 shots off of one pass or off a dribble, I love it because I know it's not going to be successful towards the end of the game.
How about front court offense, too? Because I remember that Penn State game, they went to Julius early, and then they went away from him.
Right.
And part of that's the way Penn State was defending. I give them credit for that. But their ability to score on the front court, and I think they're a little taller there at center as well, with Julius, with Henry, and some of the other players.
Sure. I think we're going to get scoring out of our front court from someone, and if it has to be by committee. But that's the other thing I love about those guys. They don't seem to, cry or complain when they don't get a touch. Sometimes Wade gets on a roll or Boots, whoever it may be, and they understand that. So as soon as the ball goes up, they're going to the boards in case it misses and trying to get an offensive rebound and stick it back. I use Garcia, for example. I think he was the leading rebounder both offensively and defensively for a guy coming off the bench in the SEC. That says a lot. For a guy that doesn't get a ton of minutes, I mean, he averaged the most offensive and defensive rebounds.
A guy that I don't think he's going to have a Wade Taylor type year, but a guy that I can see a huge growth from is Manny Obaseki.
Absolutely. When he got hurt in the Florida game last year, we kind of made our little run, and not because, eliminating Manny from the lineup. What I think happened is that now we kind of had a little more set rotation. We took one guy out of it. So these guys knew they were going to get some more minutes, and they kind of built their confidence, and we got in that little role. But when Manny came back, we were a better team. I thought he looked phenomenal today. All the guys' bodies are looking good. You can tell they're in phenomenal shape. But the thing I saw different than I've just observed in the years before is their confidence level, but not a cockiness. It's more confidence because they know they put the work in and they've had success, and I think it's going to show once the season starts.
15 minutes in, we haven't talked about Boots Radiford, so let's talk about Boots. He wants to play at the next level. He's got special skills. What does he need to do this year, to be the Robin to Wade's Batman, or reverse, however they need to do it. On a certain night, it may be he is Batman. And where has his game maybe potentially evolved?
Well, he's so good at getting to the rim. That's the thing that I think that defenses can't figure out how to stop him. I think if he can shoot the ball from the outside, particularly the three, a little more consistently, he's going to be unstoppable, And then again, it's fun to have that partner of yours where they can't just key on you. And, so Wade, he's going to help a lot of 4 other players because they can't leave him open. And, you have to pick him up literally one dribble past half court because he can pull it. And one thing I've noticed about Wade, when he gets on a roll, he's a little selfish, which in some ways is good. It's like having a Michael Jordan. At the end of the game, you really don't want him to pass it. You want him to have enough confidence to shoot it. And I think Wade has that, not like you said, a cockiness, but more of a confidence that he knows if we need a basket, he can get it, especially when he's, on fire.
And Boots can get that basket too.
Absolutely. And I think Jace Carter and some new guys will step up and do the job. Another young man that I was very impressed with that changed his body is Hayden Heffer. And again, he
changed his body?
He did.
He's gotten a little bit stronger?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, he looks like a whole different guy, really, and taller. I mean, I saw him coming out of practice today and talked to him a little bit, and I said something to him. You gained some weight. He said, finally. And again, the worst thing you can do as an athlete or even as a person is try to put weight on unnaturally, because you want to eat right, you want to lift weights the proper way, and then God takes over from there, genetics. But Wade looked great, and he did really well in their boot camp, and, he's tough. I think his frame hurt him a little bit, in the first few years because he was just so thin. It wasn't anything his lack of desire. It's just his body wasn't, prepared for that everyday beating that you get in practices and in SEC games.
Tom, I appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Hit a little break. We'll come back with one final segment here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, we're going to close it out with some stats. Ethan Jones, even during the bye weeks, like, I got some numbers for you guys to look at. What do you got?
Okay, let's start positive. Astros loss, bad mood. But we're going to try to make...
We got a lot of Ranger fans, though, here.
Okay, so we're going to keep it positive.
All right.
NBA starting today. I want to keep some positives. Let's start with Edrin Cooper. Midseason All-American linebacker. He leads the team in sacks with 6, in tackles for loss with 13.5, and total tackles with 45. And then when you compare his performance to other Aggies in the SEC area, he stands out one of the best since A&M joined the SEC. So right now, Cooper is averaging 0.86 sacks per game. If he averages the same amount for the rest of the season, he will finish with 11 sacks, which will be the most for an A&M defender since Myles Garrett had 11.5 sacks in 2015 and the third most in the SEC era. Also, Cooper is averaging 1.9 tackles for loss per game. If he keeps up this average for the rest of the season, he'll end up with 25 tackles for loss, the most in the SEC era by 4 tackles for loss.
That is fantastic. All right. I knew he was having a great year, but now to see it, if it can continue.
Yeah, hopefully it continues. Hopefully no injury problems. Hopefully he can stay on the field and play like he's playing. Yeah. Another positive stat. Through 7 games this season, Texas A&M has 94 tackles for loss and sacks combined, while last season, we had 87 or 89 overall. So we're already have more tackle for loss and sacks than last season combined.
And we're a little bit more than halfway.
Okay. Also, we need to take some negatives because it's been a rough past few weeks. We're gonna look the difference between Power 5 wins and Power 5 losses. So in Power 5 wins, we average 206.5 rushing yards. In Power 5 losses, only 72.7. So that's a big thing we need to improve.
That's a key stat right there, yeah.
Yards per carry, same thing, 5.7 in wins, 2.4 in losses. Also, completion percentage, we're much more efficient in P5 wins. 60.3% completion percentage versus 54.5. Another big stat is second half points. We had 19 in P5 wins in the second half, only 7.4 in P5 losses.
Huge difference.
Also, third downs is another big thing. Third down percentage in wins, 48.1. In losses, 37.8. Opponent third down percentage in wins, 26.7. In losses, 38.9. So the third downs basically flip wins versus losses. The opponents are better than us in our P5 losses. We're better than them in our P5 wins.
All right.
Let's give one more that's really tough. So like sacks difference in wins. We usually have 6 more sacks than our opponent. And then in losses, we have only 1.3 more. Tackles for loss difference, 11 more in wins, only 2 more in losses. So really taking like the rush yards per carry, sack difference, tackles for loss difference, it comes down to the offensive line game in wins versus losses. If we win the line of scrimmage, we're winning those P5 games.
I've been telling you guys for a couple years. I got it right. Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate you, buddy. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Radio here on a Tuesday. Got a big show for you planned tomorrow, but you won't find out until tomorrow. So see you then. Mañana. Bye.